Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Was Raised by All for One? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Izuku Midoriya is perfect. All for One counts his fingers again, just to be sure. He isn't sure what he did to deserve this. Short answer: he doesn't deserve it, but he's a selfish, greedy man, and he soaks in every detail of his son. If All Might drags him to Tartarus tomorrow, it will be bearable, because he'll be able to spend his eternity in a cell reliving the best moment of his life. Hisashi, you can hand him back, his wife huffs, and All for One glances over to find her watching him with a faint smile on her face. That's good. It means he can hold Izuku a little longer. Which is fantastic because he blinked. All for One, greatest villain to have ever lived, informs his wife with awe. Yes, Hisashi, babies tend to do that, Inko answers with a sigh. All for One doesn't pay her any mind. She's obviously still tired. And over-emotional. She was in labor for hours, after all, and needs to rest. So, as the wonderful, caring husband he is, he'll just hold Izuku a little longer. Perhaps Izuku's quirk has already manifested? It's certainly possible, considering some people are born with their quirks, although All for One isn't entirely sure how a perfection quirk would work. Perhaps Izuku's quirk is more along the lines of inspiring love in anyone who sees him? If so, it would most likely be one of those freak mutations that are so fascinating. All for One is fairly certain he never took any sort of love-inspiring quirk, and besides, he does not think Izuku would be able to inherit any of the quirks he wasn't born with. Whether the quirk is environmental, with a limited radius, or perhaps optical, would have to be determined. Hisashi! Something thumps into his shoulder and he looks up with a frown, though Inko appears distinctly unimpressed. She simply huffs as she folds her arms. Was he muttering? He hopes he wasn't muttering. He's trained himself to suppress the habit, but he's exhausted. He always knows he might slip up, and he's not quite sure what he'd do then. He can wipe Inko's memory, of course, but it seems so dishonest. He does not want to lie to his wife. Your phone's ringing, Inko informs him, and sure enough, she's right. Huh? He could have sworn he turned it off. I'll get it later. All for One shrugs, because it can't possibly be more important than this. After all, he's holding his son, who has freckles. All Might can attack his main base of operations for all he cares. There is nothing more important than this. Hisashi Midoriya, Inko growls, and All for One stiffens, because he knows that tone. He fears that tone. Give me back my son and answer your goddamn phone. All for One is the modern boogeyman. Whilst the public might not know about him, every law agency in the world whispers his name in fear. There is no one else that can send a shiver down All Might's spine. But centuries of battles, of planning, of scheming have honed his instincts until they are razor sharp. He hands Izuku over and legs it from the DLVRY room. Apparently, Dr. Ujiko does not understand the sentence, "Do not call me." All for One reflects as he sees the 5 missed calls. He's almost tempted to ignore them, but there's always that faint possibility that the authorities have noticed something strange about Hisashi Midoriya. So he bites back a sigh and hits the call button. He swears, if All Might is responsible for this, he will level New York. Yes, doctor, he prompts when his call is answered, though his thoughts are already occupied with more important matters. Will Izuku like the toy rabbit he picked out for him? All for One never really planned to have children. He considered it for a time, much the same way he considered killing the Prime Minister, but eventually rejected the idea. He has no intention of dying after all, and so has no need for a successor. A child would require far too much attention, effort, and time for an uncertain payoff. Inko had been unexpected. He had chosen to take a step back when All Might return to Japan. With enough time, the latest holder of One for All will undoubtedly lower his guard. But that could mean several years or several decades, and dating seemed a decent enough way to pass some of that time. He had never intended to fall in love with Inko, but would always be glad he did. Having a home to return to is a strange, heady feeling. The apartment might be small, but Inko could turn even a tent into a warm, welcoming home. And so, he made sure to construct the perfect fantasy for his wife, the hard-working office drone, who may sometimes have to stay late, but never forgets their anniversary. Who sometimes brings home a bouquet of flowers just because, and takes her out to dinner, and sometimes calls her from work just to hear her voice. He almost had a panic attack when he returned from a business trip, and Inko presented him with 2 positive PRGN-CY tests. A baby was, and still is, a risk, especially a baby that might one day possess the ability to steal quirks. He might not be proud of it, but he considered inducing a MCA. But Inko was so happy to share the news and begin preparing for the new arrival. Her joy at becoming a mother far outshone her happiness at being married, and he could not do it. He could not take something so precious away from her, because even if he wiped her memory, even if she never remembered it, he would. And now, as he watches Izuku sleep, All for One is so achingly grateful for those last few morals. Because Izuku is unpredictable and a risk and exhausting, and All for One has never been happier. He will always carry the guilt over what he considered doing deep in his soul. And he will always protect Izuku. Kurogyari hesitates in front of the door. It's taken him months to get this far, months of chasing rumors and petty crime to pay off the next information broker. Months of staying alert, always ready to warp away. He's lost count of the close calls, of the meals he's had to miss, of the sleepless nights. But he's always trusted his instincts, and they have yet to steer him wrong. His instincts are currently screaming at him to leave and put as much distance between himself and the door as possible. But he's tired. He's leapt through so many hoops just to get this far, and all to sell his soul to the devil. Because as ruthless and terrifying as this All for One might be, he's Kurogyari's best chance at safety. Although he can't help but wonder why someone as powerful as All for One wants to meet him in an abandoned school. He stamps down on his fear and doubts, mouths a silent prayer to whatever deity might be listening, and opens the door. The room is empty. As Kurogyari steps inside and looks around, he can feel the panic building. The room isn't anything special. It's barely more than a glorified utility closet, with a few dusty shelves and a rusty bucket. There is no room for a secret passage, no hidden camera, not a single sign of life except one lone dead spider. Nothing to suggest that the feared All for One even knows this place exists. Kurogyari breaks. He collapses to his knees and sobs. He spent so long, already faced so many failures, and now not even his quirk, all he has left, is enough. Rumors travel in the underworld, especially about useful quirks, and All for One will surely have heard of Warp Gate. If he has not contacted Kurogyari, if he has heard Kurogyari is searching for him, and has not shown up, then Kurogyari will never find him. He doesn't know when the tears dry up, but finally he has nothing left, no tears, no emotions, just emptiness. He has no idea what he'll do now, and he honestly doesn't have the energy to care. But instinct forces him up, because if All for One isn't here then he's a sitting duck, and any of the dozen or so organizations ready to kill for Warp Gate could already be on the way up the stairs. He turns, planning to barricade the door as best he can so he can warp away, and sees it. It's nothing more than a small, pink purse sitting innocuously on a shelf next to the door, but Kurogyari is positive it wasn't there before. His hands tremble when he picks it up, but nothing happens and he slowly unzips it. He almost drops it, because tucked inside is more money than he can recall ever seeing in his life. But there's a note too, and Kurogyari is no fool. He immediately pulls it out and unfolds it. By the items on this list. Warp to these coordinates and leave the items on the big rock. You will be watched. Kurogyari can do that. The coordinates are familiar enough. He regularly sleeps out in the countryside. And knowing such a powerful figure is testing him is strangely reassuring. As he warps away, though, he can't help but ponder over the shopping list. Why would a supervillain supposedly feared even by all might want 4 packs of baby diapers? It takes another month before Kurogyari meets All for One, and another 3 before the villain seems to have reached a final decision. Kurogyari understands the need for him to prove himself, and in a way, it just makes the moment sweeter. Because he's leapt through every hoop and obeyed every command without question. All for one shouldn't be able to find fault with him. He does still feel fear as he kneels before the man, head bowed of course, he'd be a fool not to. Should you ever betray me, all for one purrs and allows the threat to just hang there. Kurogiri might not know the consequences, but he shudders, he can practically feel the malice. A phone rings. Kurogiri almost warps himself away out of sheer terror. He presses his head lower, apologies at the tip of his tongue. Then he realizes he never brings his phone when he's meeting All for One. He's what? All for One exclaims, and Kurogiri can't help himself. He glances up at the man and almost has a heart attack when he meets his eyes. All for One hangs up and promptly shoves his phone in front of Kurogiri's face, a familiar location displayed on the GPS app. Take me there. Now. Kurogiri is no fool, he obeys. The area is nice and quiet, if unassuming, with small, perfectly pleasant houses. Kurogiri remembers visiting it a few times. Again, why did All for One require him to fetch 5 boxes of tissues and a box of chocolates at 23.47? He isn't sure what he should do, and All for One has already vanished into one of the homes, so he slowly follows, not wanting to have to explain his presence to some nosy housewife or homebound office worker. As he knocks on the door, he almost expects to see a reenactment of Harry Potter, specifically Voldemort's visit to the Potters. But the woman that answers looks nice and not at all afraid and very much not dead, and Kurogiri has the wrong house, doesn't he? He has to, there's no other possible explanation. Are you all right? The woman asks, wide-eyed as he starts to hyperventilate, and Kurogiri manages a slightly hysterical laugh. Kurogiri doesn't register when she bustles him inside, doesn't notice when she sits him down on the sofa. He isn't sure how long he stays there, numb to the world. Finally he calms down enough to realize he's holding a lukewarm cup of tea. Once again his curiosity gets the better of him, and so he glances around the room. It looks so domestic. There are family photos on the walls, and baby toys scattered over the floor. Even All for One doesn't look out of place, standing beside the woman, holding a baby. Kurogiri is going to die, isn't he? All for One has lived for decades. He has gone by countless names and faced down more threats than he cares to count. There have been the expected showdowns with One for All wielders and other heroes, but every few decades he is also forced to smack down some criminal upstart. Although most of the time the confrontations are laughable, there have been more close calls than he would like to admit. But he has never felt dread like this before, reaching in and curling its icy tendrils around his heart. And it's so odd that it should be here, in a pleasant, sunny room, sitting next to his wife. The doctor opposite them continues to drone on about treatment plans and likely prognosis, but All for One can't seem to focus on his words, as a single sentence keeps ringing in his ears. He makes sure to appear calm, because Inko is already clutching a box of tissues, tears rolling down her face, and it breaks his heart just a little more. But everything will be all right, he comforts himself, because there is a quirk out there that can make this better. There has to be. He can't let Inko die. Hisashi. All for One hums, focused on his tablet. He doesn't think any of these quirks would work, as they wouldn't be able to distinguish between healthy and cancerous cells, but Japan is small. Hisashi. He's locked his tablet and snapped to attention before his name has registered, and how All Might would laugh if he could see him now, the picture of a well-trained husband. He guesses from the slight twitch of Inko's lips that she guessed some of his thoughts. Or perhaps he started muttering. He can't remember when he last slept through the night. He can't remember the last time he did many things. He realizes guiltily as he hears Izuku's laughter from the living room. Hisashi, Inko repeats, breaking him out of his musings. We need to talk. About what? He asks, trying to recall if he's done anything that might have upset her. He's been keeping up with the house chores, although he did wipe out that Yakuza group last week, but if Kurogiri kept his mouth shut, Inko doesn't answer immediately, and that is enough to make him worry. Are her symptoms acting up? Is caring for Izuku too tiring in her present state? Perhaps he should have been more insistent about hiring a nanny. If I die, she finally starts, and All for One's brain screeches to a halt. "You're not going to die," he blurts out, "because she can't. He won't allow it. He'll find a way, he has to." "I don't want to," Inko interrupts his thoughts, and it pains him to see her wiping at her eyes. "But, Hisashi, you heard the doctor?" "Yes, but—" "Hisashi!" All for one snaps his mouth shut. He's no fool, and that tone strikes more fear into his heart than any holder of one for all ever could. Inko's eyes are still glistening, but there is a determined set to her shoulders, and all for one knows that expression. Whatever it is she wants, he won't be able to fight it. Thank God she's not a hero. "If I die," Inko repeats, and all for one has to press his lips together so as not to protest. "I need to know Izuku will be all right and happy. And he'll need his father. So I want you to promise me you'll retire." "What?" "I want you to stop, whatever the hell it is you do," Inko groans. "I don't know what it is, but I know it's—" She waves her hands, lost for words. "And I know it's only a matter of time before some hero comes along and gets lucky, or you make a mistake." Inko takes a deep breath. "And I'm sorry, but I can't risk that happening when Izuku would be caught in the crossfire. So I'm giving you a choice, either find some way to leave, or so help me, I'll take Izuku and I'll do everything to ensure you never see me again." She's crying openly now, and he's fairly sure he has tears in his own eyes, but she's right, isn't she? If she's gone, and All Might gets lucky, then Izuku, dear, darling Izuku, would be all alone. And 15, 20 years isn't all that long when you're as powerful as he is. And if he waits, All Might could become careless. And he doesn't know what he'd do if he ever lost both Inko and Izuku at the same time. Probably level Tokyo, however cliché it might sound. So he ignores his own tears and reaches out to pull Inko into as tight a hug as he dares. "I'll try," he chokes out as he feels Inko's own tears start soaking his shirt. "I don't know if I'll succeed, but I'll try. For you and Izuku." Inko laughs. It's wet and broken, but he'll take what he can get. "You're such a softie." "I guess I am," All for one murmurs in response. It takes him several months, countless bodies, and a natural disaster in Russia, but finally Midoriya Hisashi is ready to take the place of All for One. And so, he steps through Kurogiri's warp gate late one night, the faint smell of smoke still clinging to his clothing, and smiles at Inko, who is sitting propped up in her hospice bed. "It's done," he informs her as he sits down by her bedside and takes her hand in his. All for One is retired. Inko giggles, and he feels a smile tug at his lips. At some point, don't think about it, don't remember that day, never remember that day, he told her. Because she had a point when she said no one would question a dying woman, however much he hates that thought, and if anyone deserves to know, it's her. And if he happens to gloss over the exact number of his victims, well, she's not a mind reader. "Hisashi," Inko whispers. They don't need to look over at Kurogiri to know he is very pointedly not listening and completely engrossed in one of Inko's craft magazines. "Yes, my love," All for One murmurs and presses his lips to her hand, and Inko giggles again. Then though, she grows serious again. "Hisashi, I want you to take my quirk." And just like that he doesn't know what to say. Admittedly, that is part of what he loves about Inko, but it can get rather tiring. "I've been reading up on quirk genetics," Inko admits. "And you're a first-generation quirk user, so there's every possibility Izuku could be quirkless. But you can easily pass off my quirk as his, so—" All for One blinks back his own tears as Inko dabs at her own eyes. "What should I do if he has a quirk?" "I'd still like you to give it to him," she admits and smiles. "I know I won't be there as he's growing up, but if he has my quirk, he'll always have some part of me with him. It makes sense, it makes so much sense that he doesn't know why he didn't think of it himself. He knows it's because it would mean accepting the inevitable and he just can't. So, with Inko's firm gaze on him, he takes it. It's like her, small, unassuming, but so warm, so full of hidden strength. He can't help his tears as he tucks it away, promising himself he will wait until Izuku can appreciate it before he hands it over. He won't admit it, but right now he needs this, to keep some part of her close. "Now, I think you should get back to Izuku," Inko tells him as she dabs at her eyes. Remember what happened the last time you let Gigantomachia babysit overnight? Gigantomachia can barely sit still. It's been months, 7 months, 2 weeks and 5 days, since Lord's last visit, and now he's coming to see him. And what's more, he's bringing someone with him, someone important enough Lord purchased him brand new clothes, so he will look good. It feels strange to be wearing anything other than his cloak after so long, but he will do anything Lord asks of him. When Lord finally appears, Gigantomachia almost cries out of pure happiness. But he is puzzled. Lord is dressed strangely, and is accompanied by the other person, who stops when Gigantomachia snaps to attention. Gigantomachia, Lord greets him. Then he turns to his friend, and Gigantomachia realizes he looks so strange, because he's wearing an oddly shaped backpack on his front. That's unacceptable. Why would Lord's companion expect him to carry anything? Gigantomachia cannot tolerate such disrespect. This is my wife, Inko. Lord has a wife. Lord has a wife and allowed Gigantomachia to meet her. And Gigantomachia thought badly of her. He will have to beg for her forgiveness immediately. And this, Lord announces, pride evident in his voice as he takes something out of his rucksack, is Izuku. Lord has a son. There is no other explanation for the baby in his arms, with familiarly messy hair. The green tint and sparkling eyes are so similar to Lord's wife's, but Gigantomachia can already see the intelligence in the child, even as he starts chewing on his plush rabbit. And Gigantomachia can even make out a faint trace of freckles. There are no words to describe the honor Lord has bestowed upon him, to have allowed him to meet his wife and son. And Gigantomachia thought badly of Lord's wife. Of course Lord would want to carry Izuku. Izuku is the most beautiful thing Gigantomachia has ever seen. If he was allowed, Gigantomachia would happily carry Izuku all around Japan. Gigantomachia bursts into tears. It takes the better part of an hour before Gigantomachia has calmed down. Lord is busy entertaining little Izuku, because Lord is, of course, a wonderful father, just like he is wonderful in so many other ways, but Lord's wife allows him to use her tissues, which only makes him cry harder. But finally, the tears dry up and Lord's wife smiles at him as she settles on a log. Gigantomachia sits down on the ground next to her, because he knows full well the log could not possibly support his weight. They watch Lord and his son, and Gigantomachia beams when Izuku waves at him. Then, however, he hears a suspicious sniffle next to him. He almost panics, until he looks down and sees Lord's wife dabbing at her eyes as she waves back. Of course she would be touched by the scene. It's so beautiful even Gigantomachia is moved. So, how long have you known Hisashi? Gigantomachia frowns, surprised. But then he notices the way Lord stiffens and understands. Of course Lord has a name, and of course his wife is allowed to use it. I do not know, he responds proudly, and Lord's wife pauses, surprised. He isn't sure why. It is the truth, as he cannot remember a time before serving Lord. Oh, Lord's wife frowns, and Gigantomachia almost panics, because he doesn't want to have accidentally offended her. But then she smiles. Well, you must think very highly of him. Yes. Gigantomachia booms, startling Izuku. Gigantomachia starts to apologize, but Lord does not look upset as he comforts his crying son. Lord is a wonderful man. And I am honored to serve him, he whispers. Lord's wife laughs and Gigantomachia sighs, relieved. Then however the smile turns sad. I want to ask you to do something for me, Gigantomachia, she says in a quiet voice that has him leaning closer. Of course. Gigantomachia nods, because he will do anything for Lord's wife, so long as it does not go against Lord's wishes. I want you to look after Hisashi. Lord's wife wipes at her eyes, but her face is determined. He'll need people. Good people who he can trust. He said you used to protect him. He'll need you to do that again. Yes. Gigantomachia cheers, because of course he will protect Lord. And if he has to protect him, he'll have to be near him at all times. This is wonderful news, and he does not know why Lord's wife would cry over it. I will protect him with my life. Lord's wife gives a small, broken laugh. That's not the sort of protecting he'll need, she explains. Make sure he spends time with Izuku. Make sure he knows how much Izuku needs him. She takes a deep breath and stands. Lord has produced a couple bento boxes and is trying to keep them out of Izuku's curious hands, and so she smiles and approaches her family. Gigantomachia remains where he is, struggling to understand what she was talking about. Gigantomachia understands. He almost hates Lord's wife at times, when the sickness becomes too obvious to ignore anymore. He can see Lord crumbling every time he returns from the hospital, and there is something so blatantly wrong about it. Lord is strong, and Lord is smart, and Lord should not cry. But he cannot hate her, because when Lord looks at her, Gigantomachia can almost feel the strength of his feeling, and it's a feeling he's all too familiar with. Lord feels about his wife almost the same Gigantomachia feels about Lord. So Gigantomachia does what he can, and what he's been instructed to do. He protects little Lord. Lordling? Prince Lord? He isn't yet sure of an appropriate title. It isn't a difficult task. Little Lord is wonderful and intelligent, and Gigantomachia isn't entirely sure if he loves Lord or Little Lord more. It takes some learning, of course, since Gigantomachia has no experience with children and does not want to accidentally break Little Lord, but with time, and some help from Mistman, he manages to get the hang of things. Soon enough his room is covered in childish scribbles, and Little Lord's vocabulary has expanded to include the word machia. Gigantomachia might not be smart, but he knows Lord is in pain. And it is his duty to protect Lord, and in his opinion, that also includes ensuring Lord does not break himself. So he makes sure to tell Lord every day when he arrives home that Little Lord refuses to go to sleep if his father will not tuck him in. It is a little white lie that does not harm anyone after all. When he is still awake, Little Lord is only too pleased at the attention. And if he is already asleep, Lord will still go in and kiss his son goodnight, and then just sit there, watching him. Gigantomachia will forever be grateful to Lord's wife. Because even if she does die, at least she gave Lord a son. And Gigantomachia might be devoted to Lord, but even he shudders at the thought of what Lord might do without Izuku to keep him sane. There is some terrible, bitter irony to this. All for One muses as he places a single flower in front of the grave. He had agreed to Inko's request that she be buried with her parents without hesitation. He would have leveled New York for her, and he never thought much about his own mortality, and it hurts that he doesn't know where his brother is, but he can't think about that or he'll fall apart, and Izuku is waiting back home. It took him a week to realize she's buried a stone's throw away from Nana Shimura. But it is fitting, he supposes. The woman who vanquished the fearsome All for One, and the woman who will go down in history as the world's savior. It's taken him months of hard work. Even if All for One is not known by the general public, he can't erase all mention of him, never mind that his retirement is only temporary. But it isn't hard to hack government computers, and modifying human memory is easy with the right quirk, especially if it's something they subconsciously want. And now, all that's left is All Might, and All for One will be officially dead. Of course, that will be hardest. All for One has a few ideas, but they all carry too much risk, and he can't take any chances when he's all Izuku has left. He supposes he'll simply have to wait for an opportunity to present itself. Or find out where All Might lives and break in, but that was humiliating enough with Gran Torino. Hello there, someone greets him, and All for One feels his blood turn to ice, because he knows that voice. He knows that. He doesn't dare move, can barely dare to breathe, because it's too soon. Izuku just lost his mother, he can't lose his father too, but All for One doesn't know what to do. And he can't remember when that last happened, and it's incredibly disorienting. Some small, detached part of his mind recognizes that he is mere seconds away from a panic attack as he starts to hyperventilate. Are you all right? He feels a hand on his shoulder, and the hero is concerned for him. Suddenly All for One knows. All of this, is a sign from Inko, her final gift to her husband and son. He's no longer afraid, because he can almost feel her presence, and so he takes a deep breath. He has no way to know if he'll ever get a chance like this again, and he can't afford to squander it. Sorry, he apologizes as he turns to All Might, Toshinori Yagi, his mind supplies as he takes in the civilian dress, wide-brimmed hat and bakery box, and does his best to smile despite the tears he can feel threatening. I guess I'm still in shock. Well, Yagi nods. Were you a friend of Nana's? No, All for One admits, even as he tries to think how to turn this to his advantage. The quirk he plans to use requires only 2 minutes of skin-to-skin contact. We knew each other from work, he explains. I admit I forgot all about her. I lost my wife recently. My condolences, Yagi offers when he breaks off to wipe his eyes. Thank you, All for One gives him a watery smile. And then, because he knows the power of social niceties. Hisashi Midoriya. Tashinori Yagi, the symbol of peace, does not hesitate to shake his hand. All for One activates the quirk. It's so easy, he's not erasing memories per se, he's just adjusting them. He twists them and then gives the subconscious a little nudge. Nana Shimura died a hero. True. She saved Yagi. True. She vanquished All for One. Don't you want that to be true? She was strong enough. It'd be so unfair if she sacrificed so much for nothing. Remember that explosion? Nobody could survive that, not even All for One. As he finally lets go off Yagi's hand, the hero lets out a chocked sob. All for One, Hisashi, his name is Hisashi, All for One is dead, silently steps aside to allow him a second to compose himself. Then he offers him a tissue. Thank you. Yagi sniffles and then proceeds to blow his nose at a volume that could rival Gigantomachia. Perhaps One for All has accumulated too much power? After so many years, it might even be possible the next holder would not be able to handle it. Hell, it might even blow the poor holder's body to pieces. Does it ever stop hurting? He asks, partly to distract himself and partly because, well, he wants to know. It was different with his brother, the pain of loss magnified 100 times by that awful sting of betrayal, and it hurt so much until he met Inko. Not really, Yagi admits as he places the cake he bought by the grave. But it changes over time. And it helps. To remember the good times. He stands up and smiles at Hisashi. And those we love never truly leave us after all. The smile feels strange, almost grotesque. Hisashi may understand the intent, but there is something perverse about the symbol of peace attempting to comfort his nemesis, especially in front of the grave of the woman said enemy murdered. However few morals Hisashi might possess, it is a level of wrong he hates. But still, he is right, all Hisashi realizes. He can feel Inko's quirk under his skin, like a comforting warmth. And more importantly, Izuku is waiting back home. Izuku, whose smile puts all mites to shame, who has Inko's green hair and bright eyes. Izuku, who is now his whole world. Are you all right? Yagi asks, obviously concerned by his silence. Should I walk you home? I'll be fine, Hisashi assures him with a smile, no matter how watery. I think I just need a hug from my son. Yagi nods, and Hisashi finds himself strangely wistful. This could very well be the last encounter between the symbol of peace and his ultimate nemesis, and yet it's so anticlimactic. Just a meeting between two strangers, united in grief for the women they cherished. Thank you, Hisashi finally speaks, and he doesn't know himself who he's thanking, the hero, or the spirits that surely conspired to make this meeting possible. Don't mention it, Yagi laughs, unaware of the gravity of the moment. Hisashi nods and smiles, and walks away from the number one hero. Hisashi should have noticed sooner. He knows he has a pretty good excuse, technically 2, or even 3 if he were to be pedantic, but it doesn't matter. He's Izuku's father, a responsible adult, a former villain who could easily find out the color of All Might's underwear, and he should have known. Papa? Izuku asks, fidgeting on his stool, and something in Hisashi breaks when he sees the tears gathering in his son's eyes. Don't we have to go? I was just thinking it's been too long since we spent time together, just you and me, Hisashi smiles, the lie rolling easily off his tongue. So how about we both cheat and stay home together? We could order takeout and watch a movie. It hurts to see how Izuku perks up at the suggestion, knowing that he has not been spending enough time with his son. It hurts even more that Izuku does not protest missing a day of daycare and playing with his friends. It hurts almost as much as seeing those burns on Izuku's arms. But he decides as he helps Izuku into his favorite All Might onesie, lawsuits can wait until tomorrow. What exactly is your policy on bullying? The daycare head hesitates, but she has no reason to be suspicious. Hisashi is perfectly pleasant, just another smiling parent, dressed in a pressed suit, probably inquiring before he heads off to his day job. He's never met her before, allowing Inko to deal with the minutiae of Izuku's schooling, and of course once Inko started getting sick. No, don't go there, focus on Izuku. We try and encourage the children in our care to be compassionate towards others and share. Of course, since they're still young, we must take that into account when deciding on punishments, and so expulsion is only considered appropriate when a child is deemed a clear, continuous danger to others, the woman recites. Hisashi is tempted to pull out the daycare paperwork just to see if she got it word for word, but of course that would not go down well. So he just smiles and remains silent. Finally, once the silence starts getting to her, the woman sighs and adjusts her thick horn-rimmed glasses. She looks like an old English headmistress, apart from her green skin and the third eye on her forehead, and is obviously used to striking terror into the hearts of toddlers. Hisashi has a regular, starring role in All Might's nightmares. "Mr. Midoriya, why are you here?" she asks, leaning forwards, and Hisashi almost wants to laugh. There is nothing more amusing than ignorant bravado. "I noticed something concerning yesterday," he informs her, still smiling. "Izuku has a surprising number of injuries." The woman almost smiles. "Mr. Midoriya, you would be surprised how much trouble children can get into." The unspoken "if you paid attention to your son" wipes the smile off Hisashi's face. "Allow me to clarify, ma'am," he slowly starts. "You believe that Izuku, who is an incredibly quiet and subdued child, somehow acquired 11 separate burns on his arms alone, not to mention the numerous bruises. And your staff did not think to inform me?" Hisashi has never seen anyone embody the phrase deer in headlights so perfectly before in his entire career, but he can't care, not when he had to watch the doctor take photographs of so many injuries. "With all due respect, sir, how can I know these injuries even exist?" The woman is clearly grasping, desperate, but Hisashi has never wanted to snap someone's neck so much in his entire life. All that stops him is knowing he was seen entering the room by witnesses, some of whom are only children, and clearing up would be too much hassle. "Don't you dare," he snarls. "Don't you dare suggest I would fabricate something like this. And for what? Money?" He laughs, and it's not a pleasant sound. "I make more in a month than your little organization does in a year. I could call up the head of the police right now, and he'd be here in an hour." Izuku's injuries were clearly deliberate, and our doctor has already passed the photos to the police. He stands up and treats her to one last, final smile, and takes some pleasure in how white her face turns. "I only came to suggest you cooperate with their investigation. Have a lovely day. Now, which shape should we use next?" Izuku frowns as he considers their collection of assorted cookie cutters, and Hisashi can't help himself. He swoops down and presses a quick kiss to his cheek, eliciting a giggle, and he's fairly sure that odd sound is Kurogyri chuckling. This whole bullying revelation has not been all bad. Hisashi has been spending as much time with Izuku as possible while searching for a new daycare, which is taking longer than expected. Who would have thought so many providers would fail a background check? "This one," Izuku decides, holding up a flower, and Hisashi helps him carefully cut out the cookies, trying and failing to convince himself his smile isn't as sappy as he thinks. He's loading the tray into the oven, under the supervision of Chef Izuku, when someone rings the doorbell. Ring might not be an appropriate description, though. Someone obviously pressed the button and was not letting it go. Izuku almost falls off the chair he's standing on, he's so startled, and Hisashi drops the tray to grab his son, the cookies spilling all over the floor. Hisashi glances down and takes in Izuku's wide eyes and tight grip on his all-might figure, and has to stamp down on the urge to murder someone. "How about you help Kurogyri clean up?" he suggests with what he hopes is a reassuring smile. Izuku nods hesitantly, so Hisashi sets him down. The boy almost immediately dashes over to the warper and grabs onto his slacks. Hisashi maintains his positive attitude until he's left the kitchen. Then he pulls his apron off and, with a muttered swear, hurries to the front door. Gigantomachia is already waiting for him, and Hisashi nods to his bodyguard as the giant takes up his position just out of sight, ready to intercept any intruders. After making sure Gigantomachia can't be seen, no need to tip off the neighbors that he has 24-hour security, Hisashi takes a deep breath and opens the door. Ufa Bisudi. Mitsuki Bakugo snarls. Hisashi almost slams the door in her face. He doesn't because he is a responsible, mature parent, unlike certain people he could name. He does, however, make sure he's blocking the entrance, since the Bakugo matriarch is just a little too unpredictable. Hisashi would not put attempted kidnapping past her. Mitsuki, he greets her with a blatantly false smile. Lovely to see you. Don't give me that, the woman growls, and he can't help it, he rolls his eyes. What the F are you doing to Izuku? Where is he? Why the F hasn't he been coming to daycare? Because your son's a little sheet and a bully? Hisashi suggests helpfully when she pauses to take a breath. Mitsuki screams and tries to punch him in the face. Hisashi ducks and, with just a hint of a speed quirk, slams the door in her face. Gigantomachia is growling behind him, barely audible over the screams of rage and loud hammering on the door. For just a second, he's tempted to set Gigantomachia on the woman. But however much he dislikes, hates, despises her, she was Inko's best friend. And the security camera footage should be very helpful when he hands it over to his legal team. When he re-enters the kitchen, Izuku is cowering under the table, his all-might figure clutched tight against his chest. Hisashi takes one look at him, at Kurogiri hovering suspiciously close to the knife block, and sighs as he rubs at his eyes. How about we pop over to Kyoto for lunch? There are some questions, Hisashi reflects, that he probably doesn't want to know the answer to. Has All Might ever had a C for one? Izuku, why is there a tramp on my couch? There's a crash in the kitchen, and Hisashi can feel the first twinges of a headache. Gigantomachia looks distinctly uncomfortable but doesn't budge from his post, standing over the man on the sofa. At least Izuku didn't leave the stranger unsupervised. He's not a tramp, Papa. Izuku cries out as he runs into the room, his shirt distinctly wet, but an excited smile on his face. He's a hero. Hisashi glances back at the man, with his straggly hair, baggy black clothes and dark circles under his eyes, lying there unconscious, and does not point out just how unheroic he looks. Frankly, the nasty gash on his head makes him look more like he got into a drunken brawl. And why, pray tell, is there a hero, he asks instead, bleeding all over my sofa? He's got an OE, so we brought him home so you can kiss it better. Izuku explains with a beaming smile. Hisashi bites back his curse. Of course he has a healing quirk, he technically has 6, but who's counting? Of course he has used it on Izuku's bloody knees and bruised elbows, and burns, although only after taking photographs. Just let Mitsuki try and come after him. And of course Izuku, in his innocence, seems to have arrived at the decision that his father, a retired villain, is an appropriate person to provide medical attention to someone he picked up off the street. Izuku, I am not going to kiss him, Hisashi sighs. Why didn't you call an ambulance? Makia forgot his phone, Izuku informs him, still smiling, and now he's definitely going to have to punish Gigantomachia. Stray heroes are one thing, but if something had happened to Izuku, he feels a tug on his sleeve and makes the mistake of looking down into those bright, green eyes. Please, Papa. Hisashi had always been defenseless against his son's pleas, and the concept of getting rid of the stranger is appealing, and he can't exactly just kill him without possibly traumatizing Izuku, so with a sigh, he shuffles over to the sofa. He presses his hand to the man's forehead and activates one of his healing quirks, and does his best to ignore just how awkward he feels as he waits for it to take effect. The closer quarters at least help him notice the signature white scarf and yellow goggles. Eraserhead's eyes snap open and flash red, and the hero punches him. Papa! He hears Izuku shriek and Gigantomachia growls, as he blinks away the stars in front of his eyes and hopes his nose is not broken. Slowly, he looks up and winces when he sees the man standing on the couch with his dirty shoes. At least Gigantomachia had the presence of mind to grab Izuku, who looks torn between obeying instructions. If someone hurts you or Papa, stay with Makia, and wiggling free to run to his father's side. What the hell? Eraserhead mutters as he looks around the room. He takes in the large window with its floral curtains, the numerous family photos, and the growling giant. My thoughts exactly, Hisashi responds as Izuku gasps at the bad word. He winces as he shakes his head. Well, you're healed now, so goodbye. I don't even know where I am. My house. That doesn't tell me anything. The hero narrows his eyes. Is this a kidnapping? Hisashi should probably not be quite so offended. But, retired or not, he is a criminal mastermind. He has standards. Exactly how incompetent do you think I am? He growls. Izuku, apparently tired of being squashed into Gigantomachia's chest, pipes up. You had an OWI, so Papa healed you. Then he turns to the giant. Down, please. An OWI? He's 3, Hisashi points out as he nods at his bodyguard to lower his son. Gigantomachia does not look happy, but he obeys, and Izuku immediately dashes off. For a moment, they wait in an awkward silence, Eraserhead obviously trying to figure out a good escape route, and Hisashi might just be trying to decide how to murder him without Izuku noticing. Could I borrow a phone? The hero finally asks. Sure, Hisashi sighs, just as Izuku rushes back in. But give him an autograph, will you? It's rather comforting to see Izuku's eyes are just as effective when turned on a pro hero. Hisashi is just plating up dinner when he hears a loud crash coming from the front of the house. Loud crashes are nothing unusual, no matter how well behaved Izuku may be, he's 3. And he has an overgrown bodyguard, / playmate who should know better than indulge him so much. What is unusual is that last he checked, Izuku was well and truly amused, watching Eraserhead place a call to his agency. There's another louder crash that has Hisashi sprinting out of the kitchen. He doesn't think he even fully makes it into the living room, before something fast and hard hits him in the chest and sends him crashing to the floor. He wheezes, winded, but through the haze he can hear a commotion. Slowly, carefully, Hisashi sits up just as Ingenium, why is Ingenium in his house, tugs his helmet off and yells into the living room, Mike, it's a false alarm. Then he turns back to Hisashi and offers him a hand up. Sorry man. I'm suing you all, Hisashi informs him, clambering to his feet. He winces because he is certainly going to bruise, and mentally pencils in another doctor's appointment. Fair enough, Ingenium sighs just as Izuku dashes past him and throws himself at her father's legs. Papa, I don't like heroes, he wails and Hisashi can feel that headache returning. They're mean. Exactly how many? He asks Ingenium as he picks up his son. Just me and present Mike, the hero informs him with a wince. I'm really sorry about this, he's a bit prone to overreacting. Don't say, Hisashi mutters. He makes his way past the young man and enters his living room and almost walks back out. He is far too sober to deal with this. The room looks like a tornado tore through it. The window is shattered, there are scuff marks on the floor, and shards of glass and plaster litter the room. Gigantomachia is suspiciously missing, although Kurogiri, complete with shopping bags, is stood by the miraculously untouched TV, armed with his keys. Eraserhead, still sat on a couch, is glowering at a tall blonde, his black hair floating. Present Mike seems unconcerned, eyeing Kurogiri suspiciously. Right, Mike, let's go. Ingenium hurries past Hisashi and grabs the blonde hero by the arm. Eraser, can you walk? Shouldn't we call the police? Present Mike asks, as he glances away from Kurogiri to Hisashi and back. I mean, isn't this a kidnapping? Izuku, who seemed to have calmed down, bursts into tears again, blabbing about how he doesn't want to go to jail. The blonde hero pales, as if he's only just spotted the terrified child. Good idea. Hisashi smiles as he spots his wedding photo hanging lopsided on the wall, its frame shattered. It is not a nice smile. How about you call the police and I call my lawyers? Let's see who gets here first. Come on, Mike. Ingenium attempts to drag his friend to the door. Which is also broken. What is it with heroes and breaking things? There's obviously been a misunderstanding. Eraserhead, to his credit, joins in, and between them they manage to get him out of the house before Hisashi has come up with a plan to murder them all, without it tracing back to him. I took the precaution of sending Gigantomachia away, Kurogyari reports as he picks up his shopping bags. May I be of any further assistance? Go fetch him, Hisashi commands with a sigh as he rubs Izuku's back. And then, fix the door. My deepest apologies for yesterday's debacle. Hisashi is very much tempted to brutally murder Ingenium, but he suspects that might traumatize Izuku further. He would slam the door closed, but he has a sneaking feeling that might damage the hinges, and he really does not want to explain to the handyman why he's coming back so soon. So he bites his tongue and fixes the hero with his most deadly glare. I brought a check for the damages and a gift for the young hero. Ingenium continues, apparently unconcerned. Hisashi is almost worried he's slipping. Me? Izuku perks up, peeking around his father's legs, although he doesn't let up on the death grip on his trousers. I'm not a hero. Course you are. Ingenium grins as he squats down, holding out an Ingenium doll as a peace offering, and Hisashi must admit, the lad seems to know how to deal with kids. You helped Eraserhead, didn't you? That sounds pretty heroic to me. Really? Izuku smiles as he accepts the toy. Yeah, really, Ingenium laughs and ruffles his hair. Then he glances up at Hisashi. Hisashi is unmoved, he has experience with manipulation tactics, and heroes are absolutely terrible at them. He knows this from experience. One would think they'd at least put in some effort when begging for their life. So he just shrugs. I'm still pressing charges. I don't want to go, Izuku sniffs as he tries to hide behind Papa. Papa steps aside and gently nudges him forward. Izuku turns back to him, because he really wants to go home, where Kurogyari cooks nice food, and Makia doesn't mind pretending he's a villain, and no one says mean things to Izuku. But Papa looks firm as he crouches down, a gentle smile on his face. Izuku, I know you're scared, and that's fine. If you don't want to come back tomorrow, you don't have to. But I thought we could make a deal. What deal? Izuku asks. He wipes at his eyes, and with a sigh Papa offers up a handkerchief so he can blow his nose. Today is Monday, so if you can make it 5 days until Friday, Papa slowly unfolds all his fingers on one hand. Then he pauses and takes a deep breath. I'll get us tickets to the Heroes Against Cancer fundraiser. For a second, Izuku stares at Papa. Then he promptly bursts into happy tears, desperately nodding his head, and with a sigh, Papa accepts a box of tissues from a daycare worker. Izuku has wanted to go so badly, even though he doesn't want Papa to think he's greedy. All Might's going to be there, after all. Izuku really wants to see his favorite hero. He'd even go back to daycare with Kaken. Promise? Izuku asks, offering his pinky once he's calmed down. Pinky promise. Papa smiles and nods. He ruffles Izuku's hair. Now before you know it, Kurogyari will be here to take you home. And if you're scared during the day, just tell Miss Tanaka. All right, Izuku sniffs, but steels himself. I love you, Papa. I love you too, Izuku. Papa kisses him on the forehead. Izuku tries not to cry when Papa stands and turns to leave. Miss Tanaka, who seems really nice, much nicer than the teachers that said Kaken was amazing, leads him to his new classroom. Izuku clutches anxiously at his Ingenium doll as he glances around the room, but he can be brave. Heroes are really brave, and Izuku is going to be a hero too, no matter what Kaken says. And Ingenium said he'd been heroic when he helped Eraserhead, and Ingenium knows better than Kaken. He's already a hero after all. The room is larger and fancier than his previous daycare, with sunlight streaming in through the large windows. Children's artwork covers the wall, and there are several small tables and chairs spread out around the room. Several children are already playing, and Izuku realizes with a sinking feeling that he doesn't know anyone. He glances back at Miss Tanaka, anxious. Do you like heroes too? A loud voice asks him, and Izuku flinches at the unexpected noise. But when he turns back, the speaker turns out to be a bright-eyed boy with blue hair and a wide smile. He doesn't look scary. Even if he is taller and bigger, So Izuku takes a deep breath. Ingenium called him a hero. I do, he nods, clutching his doll tightly. Miss Tanaka crouches down next to him, and Izuku takes some comfort in her presence. Because even Kaken didn't hurt him when the grown-ups were nearby. My name's Tenya, the boy introduces himself and draws himself up, proud. My favorite hero's Ingenium. I'm Izuku, Izuku stammers. My favorite hero's All Might. But Ingenium's awesome too. Izuku is new here, Miss Tanaka speaks up. And he doesn't know anyone yet. So I think he might be just a little scared. Can I trust you to make him feel welcome, Tenya? Tenya nods immediately, and the woman smiles and stands up, but does not move away, so Izuku doesn't feel too afraid. Do you want to play heroes? Yes. Izuku nods. He swings his little rucksack off his back. I brought my dolls, so if you want, you could be Ingenium and I could be All Might. Why would All Might and Ingenium both be needed? Tenya frowns, and Izuku pauses, unsure. Then he smiles. Cause if a villain has a really scary quirk, like, if he can shoot webs and he's attacking a park, then Ingenium has to move people out of the way. And he has an army of robot spiders, so All Might has to fight them first. Izuku glances back up at the other boy, holding his Ingenium and All Might figures. What do you think? It makes sense. Tenya nods as he takes Izuku's toy, oblivious to Miss Tanaka's barely suppressed giggles. He grins as he grabs Izuku's hand and pulls him over to one of the tables. Ingenium always first on the scene. Hisashi adores Tenya. He hasn't actually met the kid yet, but Izuku's barely stopped chattering about his new friend. And as he pauses outside the classroom door, he can spot his son's smile as he plays with a blue-haired boy. Izuku really seems to have settled in well. Abiko informs him with a smile of his own, and Hisashi can't help but agree with the daycare director. Getting Izuku a permanent place is surprisingly painless. There might be a waiting list, but a few million yen, and just a touch of a quirk, but who's to know, help bump Izuku to the top of that queue. All in all, he's feeling fairly pleased when he leaves the office. He's even considering taking Izuku out for ice cream, when he spots a familiar face outside the classroom door and almost legs it through the back. Hello, Mr. Midoriya. Ingenium greets him, a wide smile plastered on his face. Then the hero pauses, and Hisashi has a terrible sinking feeling, because he knows what's coming next. Don't tell me you're Izuku's father? The young man exclaims. There are 7 dead heroes laughing their heads off right now. Hisashi just knows it. Wow. Your brother's Ingenium? Would it be so wrong for Hisashi to withdraw Izuku and just homeschool him? Hi Tenya, Izuku. Ingenium greets the two boys, unaware, or uncaring, of Hisashi's dilemma. Izuku's smile grows wider at the recognition. My name's Tensei Ida, and it's wonderful to see you again. Do you have your toys, Izuku? Hisashi asks, before Izuku can launch into another fangasm. His son gasps and ducks back into the classroom. Really, he should have suspected. The daycare has excellent security and Tenya, in hindsight, has a suspicious amount of admiration for a relatively new hero. But Hisashi is a good father, and so he takes a deep breath and plasters his best dad smile on. Hello, Tenya. He greets the boy. My name is Hisashi Midoriya, and I'm Izuku's father. Tenya hesitates for a second, and Hisashi will admit he is impressed by his instincts, but then he draws himself to his full height and bows. It's a pleasure to meet you, Midoriya, sir. Hisashi isn't entirely sure how to proceed, but then Izuku comes dashing past the Ida brothers and barrels straight into his legs. The impact doesn't even wind him, as he springs back up and starts jumping up and down, bright-eyed. Papa, can I come here again? He asks. We're going to be seating. And Tenya likes heroes too. And he said I can come to his house to play. And it's fortunate All Might will never know how effective Izuku's smile is. Hisashi would happily hand himself over if it will only make his son happy. Should that day come, he won't have anything left after all. So Hisashi laughs and ruffles his son's hair. Well, that's good, because you'll be coming here every day from now on. Izuku cheers and launches himself at his father, his happy tears making an inevitable appearance, and Hisashi allows himself a moment to bask in his son's joy. Then he takes a deep breath and repeats his mantra. There is nothing I won't do for Izuku. How about we go for ice cream to celebrate? He suggests and then nods to the waiting Ida brothers. My treat. Izuku cheers again and grabs Tenya's hand to tug him over to the cloakroom. Sure thing, Tensei's grin widens. Just let me call our parents, okay? All right, Hisashi nods. He follows the boys, knowing they'll need someone to help with their coats. Once the hero is back, he'll have to excuse himself to place a call of his own. He needs to tell his lawyers to drop the suit against Ida 10. There is nothing Hisashi won't do for Izuku, which is why he's desperately hiding behind a menu while his son bombards All Might with questions. And yes, Hisashi knows almost as much about the hero's quirk as the man himself, but Izuku doesn't need to know that. He comforts himself that at least the money he spent on admission will go directly to cancer research. And he will admit, it is rather fascinating to see the various ways heroes utilize their quirks. And incredibly entertaining to mingle with them, especially with All Might in attendance. And Izuku has not stopped smiling since he woke Hisashi. At 6. Why was he up at 6? Hi, Midoriya. He hears a familiar, tinny voice and sighs. Ida. He acknowledges the teenager as. He turns and then pauses. Tenya is dressed in a smart shirt and shorts and is holding the hand of a white, humanoid robot, which is standing next to another humanoid robot, which is standing next to another robot, which is wearing a cape. What is it with heroes and capes? The things are terribly impractical. Mother, father, Midoriya is the father of Tenya's new friend. Robot 1 introduces him. Robot 2 removes her helmet, revealing a smiling, middle-aged woman. It's so wonderful to finally meet you. Tenya seems to have really taken a shine to Izuku. Midoriya, Robot 3, the one with the cape, hums. Why does it feel like I've heard that name before? Oh, he sued us, Tensei informs his father, happily before removing his own helmet. Hisashi almost laughs at the expression on Mrs. Ida's face. Izuku's getting an autograph from All Might, he informs Tenya instead. The boy glances up at his parents, and his mother does her best to smile. Tenya, go say hi to your friend, she instructs him, and the child runs off, smiling. I'm afraid I can't quite recall the details of your case, the Ida patriarch says, and suddenly Tensei's smile is looking just a little forced. Hisashi may be retired from professional villainy, but how could he ever pass up such a wonderful opportunity to torment a pro-hero? Oh, your son and his friend broke into my house, terrified my son, caused significant property damage, and your son in particular assaulted me, he informs them with his nicest fake smile. Then he sighs. It was particularly difficult because, well, this past year, since losing my wife, has been very trying. Tensei, the mother chokes out and Tensei winces. To be fair, it was all Mick's fault. My apologies. The head of Ida 10 bows low as his wife continues to reprimand their son. I will immediately call our lawyers and instruct them to settle. Not necessary, Hisashi waves off the offer. I've already had the case dismissed. The other man hesitates, obviously surprised, and then, oh wow, it's Turbo and Engine. Izuku rushes over, autograph book at the ready, Tenya trailing behind his friend with a proud smile on his face. Your elder son may be impetuous, but Tenya is a credit to you and your wife, Hisashi shrugs and smiles. Besides, it would make playdates very awkward. Ida laughs as he accepts Izuku's notebook. Hisashi takes the opportunity to leave Izuku with a responsible adult and hurries over to one of the numerous waiters to get another glass of champagne. As he savors it, he glances around the room. There are a few established heroes, with a sprinkling of younger pros or sidekicks making the most of the opportunity to network. And, of course, there is a substantial number of people with more than enough money to drop on admission, and the meal, and drinks, and the upcoming auction. He's not sure why, but his attention is drawn to a boy standing close to one of the walls, gazing longingly at All Might. True. His hair is an odd red and white, the two colors split evenly down the middle, but Izuku is dragging Tenya to a man with an orca's head. In this day and age, white and red hair is positively mundane. Almost unconsciously, Hisashi starts drifting closer to the child. He sees the boy stiffen and look down at his feet as a large man approaches. Hisashi can feel that horrible sinking feeling in his gut as the stranger grabs the child by the arm and almost drags him off, the boy nearly tripping as he struggles to keep up. Hisashi picks up the pace, weaving between the other attendees. He moves his champagne flute at a waiter, and when he's clear of the crowd he almost breaks into a run. That sinking feeling has turned bitter, because he knows. He takes the steps 2 at a time, gasping for air, and trying to remember that this is different. He can hear a raised voice well before he sees them, and his rushed steps speed up further even as the walls start to close in. Because suddenly he's 5 again, and suddenly he's weak again, and when he sees the boy cowering against the wall, he no longer sees tidy white and red hair. And for the first time in decades, Hisashi hates. Hisashi only snaps back to the present when the stranger goes flying. He tries his best to calm down and figure out what the F he can do with the unconscious man and realizes the BSTRD's face is familiar. He has just punched the number 2 hero in the face, with what feels like at least 2 strength and possibly a speed quirk. In front of a witness. The mighty All for One, brought down by a flashback. There are 7 ghosts behind him, splitting their sides with laughter. The witness in question is staring at him in awe. It hurts to admit that Hisashi can relate. If he'd seen someone knock out his own father, he'd have the same look in his eyes. Hisashi sighs and bends down to grab Endeavor by the leg, because why should he give a DMN about a hero that apparently is hypocritical AF? Then he beckons to the kid. Right? He starts, and then realizes he doesn't know the boy's name. Todoroki. Is your mother here? The boy shakes his head. Wonderful. Follow me. Thankfully, there is a toilet nearby. Hisashi drags Endeavor inside, and it's completely accidental that he knocks the pro-hero's head against the door, no, really, and uses a quick illusion quirk to hide the room. Then, with a sigh, he pulls out his phone and dials his home number. Kurogiri, I need you to come pick up some trash. He pauses to nudge Endeavor with his shoe and frowns. Do you think you'd manage to warp to Korea? Then he remembers the kid. Oh, but first you need to drop someone off home. He hangs up and jots down a quick note. Then he crouches down in front of the Todoroki boy, who has started prodding his father with a mischievous smile. Do you know where your house is? The boy nods, and Hisashi grins and ruffles his hair. Good lad. A friend of mine will come get you in a minute. Tell him and he'll take you home. Now I have a very important task. Can I trust you? Yes, sir. The boy responds, bright-eyed, and Hisashi must admit, he's pretty cute. Good. He nods and makes sure his expression is serious as he leans closer. Now, I need you to give this to your mother. Only your mother. And this is a secret mission, so you can't tell anyone. All right. The boy nods as he accepts the note, and Hisashi smiles as he stands up. Then he heads out to grab Kurogiri. Once Hisashi has tucked an exhausted Izuku into bed, he carefully shifts his face into something memorable and as far from Hisashi Midoriya's features as he can manage, and heads downstairs to awaiting Kurogiri. Gigantomachia has already taken up position outside Izuku's bedroom, although he is under strict instructions. Any monsters located under the bed are Hisashi's responsibility. If Izuku is afraid, he can sleep in the master bedroom. Gigantomachia is not to go looking for said monsters. Kurogiri unfortunately is memorable in himself, but such matters cannot be helped, Hisashi reflects as he steps through the warp gate. The Todoroki home is every bit as impressive, pretentious, as could be expected from the number 2 hero. None of the lights are on, but when Hisashi lets himself in, a white-haired woman is waiting just inside. Mrs. Todoroki. He greets her with a bow as Kurogiri slides the door closed behind them. He does not miss her shudder at the name. But she pulls herself together, and Hisashi will admit, he is ever so slightly impressed. Your note said you could help me leave. Your husband is currently indisposed. Hisashi can't help but feel a warm glow as he remembers the photo Kurogiri showed him. In fact, he may not make it home for a few days. So, if you wish to leave. And what if I can't afford to? The woman asks with a sigh. She looks so worn down, Hisashi can't help but hate Endeavor more. She can't be much older than Inko, and yet looks ready to break. I can give you a check right now, he answers with a shrug. And if you are interested, I can pull some strings and secure you office work. Nothing exciting, but it will have benefits and a decent salary. But if you choose to stay, I will call social services. NG has a lot of influence. I have more, Hisashi smiles. It is not a nice smile. In fact, it is the very smile that features prominently in All Might's nightmares. And I will not hesitate to drag Endeavor and you through the mud if it means getting your children out. Of course, the final decision is yours. For just a moment, he worries that perhaps she's still too cowed, still too afraid of Endeavor. But then she draws herself up, and Hisashi almost laughs, because he knows that expression well. Endeavor is lucky if he never had to deal with a protective mother. She nods and turns to shout back into the house. Fuyumi, get Shoto. Natsuo, don't forget your coat. Tuya, I need your help. There's a loud crash from somewhere deeper in the home, a happy cry from somewhere else, and when Todoroki turns back to Hisashi, there are tears in her eyes. But her smile is beautiful. I'm afraid you'll have to wait. NG keeps our documents in a safe. Oh, allow me. Hisashi grins just as a young boy appears, dragging a large, battered suitcase. The child stops when he sees the strangers, but even so, the smile on his face is unmissable. Todoroki laughs. She hurries off to fetch her other children and Hisashi follows the red-haired boy to an office. He's tempted to do a real number on the room. Destruction, in his experience, is surprisingly therapeutic, but Tuya apparently knows where to look as the boy quickly locates 3 safes. Hisashi does not bother investigating the contents. He just rips the doors off all 3, eliciting a laugh from his guide. When they arrive back by the door, a thick wad of papers tucked in a plastic bag, it's a complete accident that Hisashi grabbed those bank statements, although quite fortunate should Todoroki choose to initiate divorce proceedings. 2 white-haired children, a boy and girl, are waiting anxiously by the entrance. Kurogyari is holding the red and white-haired toddler, who appears more than half asleep, and Todoroki is looking over their bags even as she wipes at her eyes. Do you have somewhere to go? Hisashi asks as he hands over the documents. Tuya hurries past him and takes his brother from the warper, and it is rather heartwarming to see the boy cuddle up sleepily to the teenager. Yes, the woman nods. There's a shelter in Utenji that I called earlier. They said they had space for us. Wonderful. Hisashi beams and turns to Kurogyari. A Utenji back alley, please. What? Todoroki gasps as Kurogyari opens a warp gate. Oh, I thought teleporting might make it just a bit harder for your husband to find you, Hisashi explains. He picks up 2 of the bags and treats the family to a beaming smile. Also, it might be just a little bit easier with 4 children. Said children don't look convinced, but Mrs. Todoroki just laughs and follows him up to the gate. He steps through, and she pokes her head through and glances around. Then she vanishes back in and soon enough, the family comes tumbling through, numerous exclamations echoing in the small, empty street. Thank you, Todoroki whispers as Hisashi sets down the bags. I can call the shelter to meet us. I don't even know. Don't mention it, Hisashi shrugs. Then he produces an envelope. That check I promised. And a referral to an excellent lawyer. If you want to take me up on that job offer, tell her she will be able to contact me. Todoroki sniffles, and then Hisashi finds himself being hugged by an over-emotional mother. Her 2 middle children quickly join in, and the eldest gives Kurogyari an awkward hug of his own, whilst balancing his brother. Thank you so much, the woman whispers as she finally draws back. Hisashi smiles, a genuine, hopeful smile as he steps back through the warp gate. He could almost swear he catches the faint smell of peonies as he emerges in his living room. He's pretty sure Inko approves. Kurogyari notices something is wrong as soon as he arrives at daycare. Izuku does not greet him with a detailed description of his day. Instead, he quietly allows Kurogyari to help him with his shoes and waves goodbye to Tenya. Once they arrive home, Izuku silently settles down at the dining table with his crayons. Kurojairi just assumes he's grieving. Every now and then, Izuku is just sad, and according to the therapists, it is not unusual. So he leaves the child be, focusing instead on dinner. Midoriya is attending some sort of conference, although boring and filled with pompous BSTRDS does not exactly tell Kurojairi much about the subjects being discussed, and won't be back until Sunday. Which means Kurojairi is the only reasonable adult in the house. Thank God he made sure he's stocked up on coffee. Izuku is quiet as they eat, and does not even ask about dessert. That is a major red flag, and as he clears the table, Kurojairi wrestles with himself. He is tempted to call Midoriya, but there is every chance the man will drop everything and rush home. And then even Gigantomachia will know something is very wrong, and the less Gigantomachia knows, the better, in Kurojairi's opinion. So Kurojairi takes a deep breath and leaves the safety of the kitchen. Izuku is playing with his building blocks, and Gigantomachia, who seems to be aware something isn't right, is watching him from behind the couch. Kurojairi considers his options for a few seconds, and then reaches a decision. Izuku, it's bath time, he tells the boy. Izuku quietly follows him to the bathroom, and once he's closed the door, Kurojairi crouches down in front of him and tries to smile. Izuku, is there anything wrong? No, Kurojairi. Izuku shakes his head. Did you argue with Tenya? No. Are the other children mean? No. Kurojairi has to force the next words out. Did your teacher make you sad? No. Kurojairi almost collapses from the relief, but he's puzzled. This is not Izuku's usual grieving, which tends to make him a lot more clingy. But if no one seems to be picking on him, Kurojairi really has no idea what the issue might be. Well, did something happen at daycare? He asks, slightly desperate. Izuku hesitates for a second, but then, finally, he says it. Miss Tanaka told us about Father's Day. And? Kurojairi asks, puzzled. Father's Day seems perfectly inoffensive. He could understand Mother's Day, but that's been and gone. And anyway, Midoriya gave him that day off, so he can't really reference it. She said it was tomorrow, Izuku sniffles. But Papa's away, so I can't give him his card. Ah, Kurojairi nods in understanding. He considers the problem, not quite sure what the appropriate response might be, and then has an idea. Well, how about we go and surprise him? Really? Izuku perks up. We can. Sure we can, Kurojairi smiles. He knows the details of Midoriya's hotel room, in case he needs to collect the man for an emergency. Izuku has no playdates lined up, and now it makes a lot more sense why not. And then another idea occurs to him. We could even bake him some muffins. Muffins? Izuku cheers. Then how about I get the kitchen ready, and you make sure you have your card, and then we'll have bath time after baking? Kurojairi suggests, and then leans in to whisper in Izuku's ear, it can be a little later, since we've got a secret mission to get ready for. A secret mission? Izuku gasps. Then something occurs to him. Will Makia come too? Kurojairi considers the situation. Traveling with Makia is not easy at the best of times, and Kurojairi really does not want to even imagine managing both Izuku and Gigantomachia on public transport, especially without Midoriya to manage Gigantomachia's overprotective tendencies. We need him to stay here, so your papa doesn't know we're coming. Makia needs to answer the phone if Papa calls. This is a really important job, so how about you tell him? Make sure he knows just how important a mission this is, he stresses. The only person Gigantomachia regards anywhere as highly as Midoriya is Izuku, after all. If the bodyguard will lie to his lord for anyone, it's almost certainly going to be Izuku. Izuku grins and dashes out of the bathroom. Makia! I'm gonna surprise Papa. Kurojairi shakes his head and goes to find that recipe for chocolate muffins. Isashi sighs as he collapses onto the hotel sofa and summons his phone. He hates spending weekends away from Izuku, but there were a few speakers he really needed to meet with. He smiles at the lock screen, Izuku and Tenya beaming at the camera, and dials his home number. He has a few hours to spare, and the best pick-me-up is definitely Izuku. Hello. Good morning, Gigantomachia. Hisashi greets the giant as he picks up his coffee. I'd like to speak to Izuku. You can't. Hisashi frowns. Don't be ridiculous, Gigantomachia. Put him on. I can't. He's not here. What do you mean he's not there? Hisashi isn't sure why his former bodyguard sounds so panicked, but he's starting to get a very bad feeling. Hisashi can almost picture the giant flailing about. Please don't let him break anything, please. Little Lord's been kidnapped. He's what? Hisashi shrieks as he jumps to his feet. The coffee table crashes over, but he can't care. Izuku kidnapped? Who would dare do such a thing? He desperately tries to figure out who might be responsible. The conference is no longer important. Someone is going to die. He needs to get home now. Put Kurogyari on. He took Little Lord. The phone in Hisashi's hand shatters. That filthy, traitorous little rat. Hisashi took him in, gave him a home, and this is how he's been repaid. Never mind Hisashi, Inko trusted him. She treated him with such kindness, and he just spits on her grave. Death is too good for him. Hisashi will rend him limb from limb, and flay him alive, and take that precious little quirk from. Surprise, Papa! Hisashi instinctively grabs the coffee table and throws it at the intruder. Thankfully, Kurogyari has good reflexes, and so the table misses Izuku and goes sailing through a warp gate. Are you surprised, Papa? Izuku asks, apparently unaware he was almost killed by his father. He's beaming from Kurogyari's hip, apparently ignorant of his current situation. Has Kurogyari come to gloat? He could warp Izuku into the sea, or 2,000 feet up, in a millisecond, so he certainly has some insurance. Or perhaps he's just lost his mind. Hisashi hesitantly admits, as he slowly approaches his son, watching Kurogyari for any sort of attack. What are you doing here? Oh! Izuku gasps. Then he grins. Happy Papa's Day. Izuku was very upset you would be away for Father's Day, Kurogyari explains as he sets Izuku down. The boy immediately starts rummaging in his All Might backpack. So we decided we would surprise you. It was certainly a surprise, Hisashi mutters. He still isn't entirely sure about the warper, but it makes sense. Presumably Izuku asked Gigantomachia not to tell him about the surprise. But then Gigantomachia tends to require clear instructions, especially if he has to disobey his lord. Hisashi will have to figure out how to explain that to a toddler. Papa! Izuku hurries over, a card in hand. I made you a card. And we made muffins, but Kurogyari has them. He deflates a little, and Hisashi can't help it. He laughs as he picks up his son. Well, muffins sound lovely. How about we all have some muffins, and then we go do a little sightseeing? Muffins? Izuku cheers. Kurogyari produces the muffins from his canvas bag, and then glances around. Should I go fetch the table? Tenya, could you come here for a minute? Tenya frowns as he looks up from his drawing, but Tensei looks serious. So he makes sure all his pens are properly capped, and grabs his Ingenium plush, which Tensei had made specially for him. His brother is the best. Then he joins Tensei on the couch. Tenya, his brother trails off, takes a deep breath and soldiers on. I want to talk to you about Izuku. Have you ever wondered about him? Do you have any questions about him? Yes. Tenya grins. Izuku is great, but they haven't known each other for very long. Does he have his quirk yet? 'Cause he's really smart. Or, his hair's so curly, is that his quirk? Is Makia his dog? Why is he so small if he's older? Can he come to the beach with us? What's a suvlu? That's not quite what I meant. Tensei interrupts the flood of questions. Oh, Tenya deflates. His brother chuckles, though, and ruffles his hair, so obviously he isn't mad. Tenya just wishes he knew what he was supposed to ask about. No, it's fine, Tensei assures him. But has Izuku ever mentioned his mum? Tensei considers his answer carefully. Izuku talks a lot about his papa and Makia, and is Kurogyari his mum? Tenya doesn't know what's so funny. He does end up fetching his brother a glass of water, partly because just watching Tensei laugh is boring, and partly because his brother will probably need it and Tenya is the world's best little brother. No, Kurogyari isn't Izuku's mum, Tensei finally informs him. Kurogiri and Makia are friends of Izuku's papa. They help him with cooking and play with Izuku. Why doesn't Izuku's mom cook? Tenya asks with a frown. Tensei sometimes makes lunch, but their mom's food is always the best. Maybe Izuku's mom is like their dad and burns everything? Well, you see, Izuku's mom loved him very much, Tensei explains to him carefully. But she got very sick and the doctors couldn't make her better, so she had to go away. Like grandma? Yes, just like grandma, Tensei smiles and nods. And I'm sure Izuku misses her very much. So he probably feels very sad. And sometimes he cries, even though he's not hurt. Tenya considers this new information. He knows Izuku is really timid, and sometimes just curls up in a corner and is sad, but it makes sense. Tenya can't imagine his mum not tucking him in, or kissing his boo-boos better. He sniffs and wipes at his eyes angrily, and silently promises himself he'll hug her as soon as she gets home. Of course Izuku cries so much. He must be so sad. Tenya silently promises himself he'll be the best friend ever. The next day at daycare, Izuku is suspiciously quiet. When Miss Tanaka allows them to go play outside, he just sits down next to her desk, his all-might plush clutched close. Tenya hesitates in the doorway, since it's really sunny, and he's good at tag, but then he remembers his mum dropping him off, and hurries back to his friend, determined. He drops down next to him, and Izuku sniffs as he looks over at him, obviously surprised. Tenya makes sure he's pressed up close, so Izuku knows he's, well there. Tenya. Miss Tanaka approaches them. Don't you want to play outside? No thank you. Tenya answers, because he might be on a mission, but he also wants to be polite. Izuku's sad, so I'll stay with him. The woman smiles and leaves them be, and Tenya ponders how he can make Izuku feel better. Tensei would know what to do, but Tensei's not here. Should he hug Izuku or maybe? You don't mind that I'm a crybaby? Course not. Tenya frowns and then adds, and you're not a crybaby. I cry a lot, Izuku points out, sniffling. And I'm a Deku. Tenya doesn't know what a Deku is, but he chooses instead to focus on one issue at a time. He can ask Tensei what a Deku is when he gets home, and then he can make a list of why Izuku isn't one. Because Izuku is fun and Tenya likes him. Well, why are you crying? Izuku doesn't answer, just buries his face in his arms, and Tenya kind of wishes Tensei were here, 'cause he'd know what to say. But Tenya likes Izuku and wants to be his friend, so he'll just have to figure something out. Do you miss your mum? The nod is barely noticeable, but Tenya almost sighs in relief. Then it's all right, he shrugs. I miss my mum when she's away and I cry. But I know she's coming back. But your mum had to go away and she can't come back, so it's okay to cry. You really don't mind? Tenya considers it seriously and shakes his head. No. I know why you cry and you're really fun and smart. And I want to be your friend. So next time you're sad, you can tell me and... He frowns as he tries to decide what might make Izuku feel better. I'll hug you. Izuku promptly bursts into tears, and Tenya panics and runs for Miss Tanaka. He hopes Izuku will still be his friend, even though he made him cry. Ida household, Takeshi speaking. Hello? Who is this? It's Midoriya, Izuku's father. Called to tell you Tenya is wonderful. And amazing. And you should be proud. Good night. Tenya, did anything happen at daycare today? Can we go yet? Gigantomachia, remember, only attack on my command. No fighting without my XPLCT permission. Can we go yet? I took the initiative, sir, and packed a few spare towels. Can we go yet? Izuku, stand still. Papa has to put this sunscreen on you. Can we go yet? All right, Kurogiri, open a gate to Dagoba Beach. Beach. The minute they're through the warp gate, Izuku cheers and makes to dash over to his best friend. Hisashi grabs his son in the nick of time and crouches down in front of him. Izuku is practically vibrating with excitement, but they need to go over the ground rules, again. Now, Izuku, what did I tell you? Don't go in the water without you. Izuku answers confidently. And? If a grown-up I don't know talks to me, I scream. And? When you call me, I come immediately. And? Izuku frowns, obviously confused. Hisashi smiles as he ruffles his son's curls. I love you. Love you too, Papa. Izuku chirps and quickly hugs him. Then he turns and sprints over to Tenya. Ah, Katsumi Ida coos as Hisashi approaches the other parents. That is so adorable. If only Tenya was as affectionate. Glad you could make it, the Ida patriarch greets him. Tensei promised to join us after his shift. Then he turns his attention to Hisashi's companions. Takeshi Ida. And you are? Kurojairi, the warper smoothly introduces himself. And this is Makia. Izuku runs over, bright-eyed. Can you play with us? Yes, little lord. Gigantomakia beams and immediately drops the parasol he was carrying on Hisashi's foot. We're the hired help, Kurojairi explains as Hisashi drags the giant off before he says anything suspicious in his torrent of apologies. Okay. Katsumi Ida slowly nods. How about I help you set up? Takeshi offers with a forced smile. Apparently Tenya thought Makia was a dog. Izuku isn't sure why, since Makia doesn't have a tail and isn't terribly cuddly, but he does make for an awesome dragon. And they both agree riding on his shoulder is really fun. After a while, though, they get tired and settle down to make sandcastles. Makia plops himself down a few yards away to watch them. Tenya apparently finds it a little scary, though Izuku can't quite figure out why. They're just trying to decide whether to go searching for shells, when they hear a grown-up. Oh, they're so adorable. Tensei, you never told me Tenya has such a cute friend. Namuri. Tenya cheers. He grabs Izuku and pulls him along, and Izuku goes willingly. He can see Tensei with 3 other people, so it's not like they're all strangers, and since Tensei's a hero, they might be heroes too. Maybe they'll give him an autograph. He smiles as he comes to a stop next to his best friend. Then he looks up and promptly bursts into tears. What the hell did you do? Izuku hears the female voice ask. He kind of wants to run to Papa, but he's also scared, so he hides behind Tenya. He knows Tensei said he was heroic, but present Mike was really scary, and what if he's still angry at Izuku? What if he arrests him? Will Tenya still be his friend, even when he knows how naughty Izuku was? Then the ground starts to shake, and Izuku just cries harder, because the thundering footsteps are coming from the direction of Papa and Makia. That means he can't go to them, and maybe it's a really scary villain who hurt them. Villain! One of the 4 screams, and Izuku grabs onto Tenya, because that means Papa might be hurt. Izuku doesn't want Papa to go away like Mama. Then the shaking stops. What the hell? A familiar voice mutters. Can that villain swim? The lady asks. I don't think he can, Tensei sighs. Mike, go save him. Why me? 'Cause this is all your fault. How is it my fault? Someone go save the drowning man, the lady screams. Izuku hears someone run off, and then Izuku hears the single best sound in the world. Izuku! Papa, I don't want to go to jail, he wails as he turns and sprints to his papa. You have 3 seconds before I call the police, Hisashi hisses. Tensei blanches, but the woman, Kayama Namuri, hero named Midnight, Hisashi's mental Rolodex of hero supplies, doesn't pay him much attention as she focuses on calming Izuku. It's all right, little guy, no one is taking you to jail, she assures his back. And if someone says they will, they're mean liars and I'll put them in timeout. Really? Izuku sniffs as he turns slightly, but doesn't let go of Hisashi's leg. I promise, the woman holds out her pinky. And I'm a hero, so you can trust me. But present Mick's a hero too. Oh, so it's Mike. Midnight stands up and turns to the water. Mike, what the F are you doing? He's trying to kill us. Present Mike screams back. He and Eraserhead are perched on a small rock, and Gigantomakia is glowering at them from the shallows. At least the giant has enough presence of mind not to chase them out of his depth. What did you expect, terrifying the poor deer? Going to kill you. Hisashi likes Midnight. Gigantomakia. Hisashi calls out to his bodyguard. As amusing as the situation is, he does not want to be implicated in a double homicide. Fetch Izuku's towel. The giant reluctantly obeys. As he lumbers away, Eraserhead jumps in the water and begins swimming back to shore. Present Mike, however, showing an impressive amount of self-preservation, remains where he is. Hisashi Yamada, get over here. Mr. Midoriya, why is Izuku sad? Tenya asks, obviously having decided Hisashi is the only sane adult present. Smart kid. Well, Hisashi hesitates for a second. You see, Present Mike really scared Izuku a while back, because he thought Izuku did something bad. I wanted to help. Izuku sniffs. Tenya takes in his friend's tear-stained face, and reaches a conclusion. Present Mike's mean, he declares and grabs Izuku's hand. I don't like him anymore. Has Hisashi ever mentioned he adores Tenya? Oh, him. Midnight throws her hands up. Then she realizes two men are glaring at her and winces. Sorry. Was Namuri mean too? Tenya asks. No, just a little naughty, Hisashi helpfully informs him. She just said a very bad word. And I'm very sorry, the woman adds. She crouches down in front of the two boys and smiles. My name is Kayama Namuri, but my hero name is Midnight. Midnight? Izuku gasps, suitably impressed and distracted. The R-rated hero. What's R-rated? Tenya asks. Izuku frowns, obviously stumped. Maybe she's a pirate hero? Namuri, are you a pirate? Oh my god, they are so precious, Midnight sniffs. She is obviously a sensible, sane person, however rare it is that such individuals choose to become heroes. And Hisashi is not above recruiting people on the off chance they could be useful. So he looks down at Izuku and instructs his son, Izuku, be polite. Sorry, Papa. Izuku nods. Then he smiles at the woman and chirps, my name is Izuku Midoriya. I'm 4. Hisashi could probably recruit a small army simply with the force of Izuku's smile. Gigantomachia, Izuku will have lunch now, Hisashi informs the giant as he reaches them. I need to speak with Present Mike. After all, Gigantomachia might not be able to swim, but Hisashi. Izuku, right? Izuku is still a little scared of Present Mike, so he doesn't come out from behind Tenya, who has decided the hero is mean, and therefore Tenya doesn't like him anymore. Tenya really is the best friend ever. Izuku isn't entirely sure why Papa, Tensei, Midnight and the Idas are all glaring at the blonde, or why Makia is growling so loud. He also doesn't know how Eraserhead can sleep despite the noise. He nods, hesitantly. I'm really sorry I scared you, Present Mike winces. I was worried about Eraser, see, 'cause he's my best friend. And I didn't know where he was. Why didn't you call a hero? Izuku asks. Present Mike must not be very smart if he doesn't remember what to do if you lose someone. I'm a hero, Present Mike points out. And I called Ingenium. Mum says you should tell a police person if you lose someone, Tenya says, and Izuku perks up. Of course Tenya also knows what to do if you lose someone, since Tenya is so smart. They can teach Mike what to do together. Or go to the Lost Child Center. Izuku adds. He doesn't quite know why Tensei and Midnight are snickering, but this is really important. Yes, Mike, next time go to a Lost Child Center, Tensei gasps out. Or a cat rescue. Midnight adds. Eraserhead's not a cat, Izuku points out, confused. He's not fluffy. Papa. The minute Izuku is through Kurogiri's warp gate, he bolts past Makia and up the stairs. He has super exciting news, and he wants Papa to be the first to know. This is awesome, and he knows Papa will understand just how important this news is. And he knows he shouldn't run in the house, but this is a big event. It's like Izuku's birthday, only it's not his birthday. Izuku? Papa looks up as Izuku runs into his study. What is it? Papa, guess what? Izuku knows he should stand still, but he is excited. This is awesome and amazing, and Izuku will have to ask Papa for more words, because he doesn't quite know how to express how great this is. Tenya's birthday is next week. He's going to be 4, he makes sure to show the right number of fingers, because he can count to 7. And he's having a party. And he wants me to come. That's wonderful, Papa smiles. We'll have to pick him out a nice present. Izuku puffs up his chest as he remembers the best part. Guess what, Papa? He said he wants me to come because I'm his best friend. Tenya is super awesome and a great friend, and will be an amazing hero, and Izuku loves him so much, and Izuku is Tenya's best friend. And Papa obviously understands how exciting this is, because he laughs and stands up. Now that is wonderful news, Papa beams. We'll have to find him an incredible present. Yes. Izuku nods, and then, because he's a good boy, he asks, Can I go tell Makia? And Kurojiiri. You mean they don't know yet? Papa chuckles. Course not. Izuku frowns. He wanted Papa to know first, and Makia might spoil the surprise. Also, he wants to tell everyone he can, because he's Tenya's best friend. Well, go on then, Papa laughs. Izuku grins, spins round, and sprints out of the room. Makia. I'm Tenya's best friend. It is a rather novel experience, entering a hero agency through the front door with no dastardly schemes. Hisashi isn't sure he quite likes the feeling. He keeps expecting All Might to appear out of nowhere and spring a trap. No, actually it is exactly the sort of irresponsible action Hisashi would expect from him. Just in case, he tightens his grip on Izuku's hand. Izuku is so in awe of his surroundings, he's gone completely silent. No exclamations and no muttering as they approach the reception desk. Hisashi regularly has to tug him along. The woman behind the desk looks surprised. To be expected, Hisashi supposes, since Ida 10 has not yet sold its soul and is not open to the public, but quickly plasters on her best customer services smile. Hello, and welcome to the Ida 10 Hero Agency. How may I help you today? Hisashi picks Izuku up, so he can see over the desk. Hello. Izuku beams, obviously happy to have found someone who might not know the exciting news. I'm Tenya's best friend. The receptionist huffs a laugh. Izuku, I presume? Yes. Hisashi nods as he lowers his sun back down. I'm guessing Tenya told you we'd be coming? Yes, the woman replies. She lifts her phone and dials a number. Hi, I've got Izuku down here in reception? The pause. Yes, that is Izuku, she giggles and hangs up. Someone will be down to escort you. She reaches into a drawer and hands them 2 visitor passes. Hisashi pins his to his jacket, and Izuku examines his in wonder. Then an idea seems to occur to him, and he urgently tugs on Hisashi's sleeve. Papa, he whispers once Hisashi has bent down. Do you think we'll see any heroes? As if on K, the lift doors chime open. Izuku. Midnight sprints out of them. Present Mike hobbles out after her, followed by a number of assorted sidekicks in varying degrees of shock. Hisashi barely resists his temptation to grab Izuku and run, because all heroes are crazy. Midnight. Izuku cheers. Tenya said I'm his best friend. I know, the woman beams. Everyone is so excited to meet you. You don't say, Hisashi murmurs as he eyes the 10 or so sidekicks milling about awkwardly. Now, Tensei's out on patrol, but Tenya is waiting for you in the equipment room, Midnight laughs. And I might happen to know someone is going to get to try on costumes. Costumes? Izuku gasps. He spins round, wide-eyed, to Hisashi. Papa, did you hear? Costumes. I heard, Hisashi chuckles. He picks up the gift bag and motions for Midnight to lead the way. That is a big bag, Present Mike chuckles as everyone files back into the lift. Of course it is, Hisashi nods and smiles. After all, Izuku is Tenya's best friend. Izuku is having the best day ever. He's not sure how many sidekicks he's met, and Tenya is so proud to introduce him to everyone, and Present Mike isn't at all scary and is rather fun, especially when he teaches him to dance, and then Tensei came back and he let Izuku try on his helmet. Izuku sniffs and wipes at his eyes. He is so happy he can feel his happy tears coming, and he doesn't really want everyone to see him crying, so he goes and sits by the table. Tenya is dancing with Midnight, and Izuku wants to calm down before he goes join them. Because Tenya is a wonderful friend, and really smart, but he kind of has trouble understanding happy tears. "Hey, Izuku," he hears Tensei and looks up at him. "Feeling a little tired?" Izuku kind of doesn't want to tell him he is, because everything is really nice and he wants to be good, but he also doesn't want to lie. So, hesitantly, he nods. "A little," he sniffs and then quickly adds, "and I'm very, very happy." "That's good to hear." Tensei grins as he sits down next to Izuku. Izuku likes his grin, Tensei is really fun, and Izuku kind of wishes he had a big brother like Tensei. Then he glances over at Papa, who is chatting with one of the sidekicks. The smile slips from his face, he takes a really deep breath, and turns back to Izuku. "Izuku, is everything all right at home?" Izuku isn't quite sure why he's asking, but he nods. "Are you sure?" Tensei asks. He leans in a bit and lowers his voice. "'Cause I'm a hero, after all, and if anything is wrong, it's okay to tell me. You won't get in any trouble, I promise." "I dunno," Izuku hesitates and then admits, "I do miss Mama." "Yeah," Tensei sighs and pulls him into a hug. "I know. But, your papa isn't mean to you?" "No." Izuku shakes his head. "No one's mean anymore." "Anymore?" Tensei pauses. "Was someone mean before?" Izuku hesitates, but Papa said Kaken was nasty and mean, and he doesn't have to see him anymore. So he nods and leans in to whisper in Tensei's ear, "Kaken was mean. And he hurt me." "Did Kaken call you a Deku?" "Yes." Izuku nods. He doesn't like thinking about Kaken and wipes at his eyes. "But Papa says I don't have to see him anymore. And Tenya's a good friend. Papa said so. And Kaken wasn't. And I'm going to be a hero." He sniffs again, and Tensei smiles again as he ruffles his hair, although it's tinged with sadness. "Izuku, your papa is right. And if anyone ever hurts you again, feel free to tell me," he grins and points at himself. "After all, I am a hero. And just between you and me, you're a pretty good hero too." "Really?" Izuku perks up. "How?" "You know how All Might smiles when he helps people?" Tensei asks. Izuku nods. "Well, he does that to make people feel better," Tensei grins. "Kind of like how when you're sad, Tenya hugs you. And I'm sure your papa misses your mum very much." Izuku nods again, although he doesn't quite know what that has to do with All Might. "But when he sees you're happy or when you hug him, I think that makes him feel better. So in a way, you're your papa's hero." Izuku perks up. Tensei is a hero, so he knows what heroes do, and he's also really smart. And maybe he's right. 'Cause when Izuku is sad and misses Mama, Papa's kisses make him feel better. So maybe it works even for grown-ups. Izuku likes the idea of being his papa's hero. "Papa?" "Yes, Izuku?" Hisashi makes sure to smile as he puts the report he was reading down. He knows he needs to get it signed off today, but Izuku rarely, never, interrupts his work. And with the Bakugo unpleasantness still fresh in his mind, Hisashi is not going to risk turning him away. Izuku hesitates in the doorway, sending Hisashi's fatherly instincts into overdrive. He stands up and approaches his son, his heart breaking when he hears a suspicious sniffle. "Oh, Izuku." He sighs as he kneels and pulls his boy into a tight hug. "What's wrong?" Izuku wipes his eyes when they separate, and Hisashi produces a tissue and commands him to blow. Izuku obeys but isn't any more forthcoming. Hisashi waits patiently, but when Izuku just sniffles again, he picks his son up and moves them to his office chair. Izuku almost immediately curls up, his small fingers grasping at his father's shirt. Hisashi allows himself to savor the feeling as he starts humming one of Inko's favorite lullabies. At least he still has Izuku. "Papa?" Izuku finally whispers. "What if I'm quirkless?" He sounds so small, so broken, that Hisashi has to take a deep breath to try and stay calm, because he hates the Bakugo brat like nothing before. "Then you're quirkless," he finally answers, in as nonchalant a manner as he can manage. "But we don't know that yet. Some people don't get their quirk until they're older, it happens." "Where did you hear that word, anyway?" Izuku's sniffles are enough of an answer, and Hisashi presses a quick kiss to those adorable green curls. They sit in relative silence for a while, Hisashi occasionally carding his fingers through Izuku's hair. Kaken said I was quirkless, Izuku finally whispers. And Kaken is so smart, Hisashi rolls his eyes. Izuku, I don't care about your quirk. Never have, never will. Do you know why? Why? Because I love you. Because you're so smart, and kind, and polite, and every day I am so proud of you. Hisashi presses his lips to Izuku's head. You don't need a quirk. Nobody needs a quirk. If anyone ever tells you otherwise, then they're fools, and you need to inform me immediately. Izuku nods hesitantly, and Hisashi resists the urge to sigh. Kaken was very mean, and a very bad friend, he explains instead. Friends don't say nasty things to friends or make them cry. So if anyone ever does anything like that, tell a grown-up, understand? Izuku nods again. Now, does Tenya care whether you have a quirk? No. That's because Tenya is a good friend. Tenya cares that you are a very nice boy, and you want to help people, and you like playing with him. Izuku nods, but it's slow and hesitant, and Hisashi knows this is not the last he's heard of quirklessness. But Izuku is still young, and probably is not up to a lesson about prejudice, and definitely not capable of understanding why there is no worry he will be quirkless. So Hisashi decides they can come back to this another day, and they both certainly deserve a pick-me-up. Now, I think we need a therapeutic helping of ice cream. Sound good? Izuku perks up and nods. And how about we curl up on the couch and have a TV marathon? Even as faint as it is, Izuku's smile means everything. Izuku wishes his quirk would show up already. He knows Papa said it would come when it was ready, but Izuku is the only child at daycare who doesn't have a quirk yet. And although Tenya doesn't seem to mind being friends with someone without a quirk, he's had engine since he was a baby, so he can't really imagine not having a quirk. Not that Izuku wouldn't want to be friends with Tenya if he didn't have engine, but... And quirks are so amazing, and Izuku wants to know what his quirk will be. His parents aren't like Mr. and Mrs. Ida, who both have quirks that make them really fast, so of course Tenya and Tensei have quirks that make them really fast. They have really different quirks, so Izuku can't really guess what his quirk will be. He wonders whether he'll take after Mama, or maybe his quirk will be like Papa's. Izuku pauses in his musings as a thought occurs to him. What exactly is Papa's quirk? He knows about Mama's, can even sort of remember it in use, back before she got really sick and had to go away. But no matter what, he can't recall Papa ever explaining his own quirk. It's probably some sort of healing, Izuku decides, because he can always kiss Izuku's Aoi's better. But he didn't kiss Eraserhead, and Eraserhead got better anyway after Papa touched him. Izuku ponders the mystery as he eats dinner, and by the time Kurogyari stands to clear the table, Izuku has reached a decision. He just has to figure out Papa's quirk. The super important very secret mission begins early the next day. Izuku needs to figure out the ins and outs. He knows Papa's quirk works on scraped knees and burns, but he isn't sure if it works on broken bones and tummy aches. Izuku frowns as he considers his plan and almost backs out. But he's not a coward, unlike what Kaken says. And he needs to find out about Papa's quirk. And maybe, just maybe, his own quirk will activate. Izuku takes a deep breath and jumps off the dining room table. The pain is so bad he almost faints. All thoughts of quirks forgotten, he starts to sob. He wants his Papa, and his leg hurts, and he doesn't care if he's a crybaby. Little Lord! Makia cries out as he comes thundering into the room, and Izuku starts crying louder. He's hurt and scared, and he wants Papa. Gignatomakia takes in the sight of a hysterical toddler and makes possibly the smartest decision in his life. He spins around, smacks his head on the doorframe and thunders out, bellowing at the top of his lungs, Lord! Little Lord is dying. Papa appears in a matter of seconds, a panicked expression on his face, dressed only in black boxers, and if Izuku wasn't quite so scared, he would have wondered about the flicker of flame coming from his mouth. But Izuku is hurt and frightened, and so he reaches out for Papa, who immediately kneels and pulls Izuku close. Izuku, what's wrong? Papa asks. Leg, Izuku chokes out between sobs. Hurts. Oh, Izuku, Papa sighs, and for a minute they simply sit there. Izuku is still hurt, and still sad, but at least Papa doesn't seem to mind Izuku's a crybaby. So he snuggles up a little bit closer, because just being with Papa makes the pain hurt less. His leg itches. What's wrong? Papa asks. As Izuku shifts. Itchy. Izuku whines in response, and Papa laughs, obviously relieved. That's just the healing quirk, he explains, and Izuku realizes that sure enough, as the itching increases, the pain vanishes. Izuku's interest is piqued, and he remembers why he went through with this silly, stupid plan. But the itching is already fading, and Izuku panics, because it's too soon, he doesn't know how it works, and he doesn't want to have to do this again. If he could only borrow it only for a few seconds, and something clicks. The quirk isn't fading anymore. If anything, it feels stronger than before, a strange warmth but quite thrumming under his skin. Izuku pokes at it and marvels, so enraptured he doesn't notice the puzzled, almost comical, expression on Papa's face. Izuku, Papa finally speaks, and Izuku freezes because he sounds so uncertain, so unsure, it's scary. What did you just do? Izuku stops pondering over the quirk, but it's still there, even though there's nothing left to heal, and Izuku suddenly understands. He can feel it so well because it's in him. Because somehow, without meaning to, he took it, like a thief. Izuku bursts into tears. Papa doesn't have a quirk anymore, and it's all Izuku's fault. Izuku didn't mean to, but now Papa will be angry, and think Izuku was naughty. And what will Tenya think? Will he think Izuku's a mean thief too? Will he think Izuku wants to take Engine? Will Tensei arrest him and send him to prison? Izuku doesn't want someone else's quirk. He didn't mean to. Why isn't Papa angry? Izuku realizes Papa isn't shouting, and looks up at Papa, who is smiling. Izuku wipes at his eyes, puzzled. Does Papa not mind not having a quirk anymore? Does he still love Izuku, even though Izuku is a naughty thief? Papa takes the opportunity to grab and lift him, spinning them around, laughing. It's so unexpected Izuku joins in, because Papa obviously doesn't mind not having a quirk anymore. Even though Izuku can't understand why. Izuku would be sad if he had a quirk and then lost it. My little boy got his quirk, Papa cheers, and then pauses to look down at Izuku, suddenly serious. Izuku almost panics, but then Papa sighs. But you need to promise me you'll stop growing up so fast. Next thing I know, you'll be off to work, and I'll be all alone, and you'll never call me. Papa. Izuku whines because Papa is being silly. Papa just laughs and presses a big kiss to Izuku's cheek, and it's so nice, so pleasant, but he still needs to make sure. You're not mad. Course not, Papa smiles. He doesn't say anything, he doesn't have to. Because Izuku feels it, but also at the same time doesn't. That quirk he took, Papa's quirk, is just suddenly gone, and Papa winks. Izuku covers his mouth to muffle his laughter, because Papa can do it too. And that must mean it's not naughty, and Papa's obviously not mad, and if Papa can do it, he must still love Izuku, even if Izuku stole his quirk. Maybe Papa accidentally stole someone's quirk when he was little, too. Kurogyri. Papa yells as he carries Izuku out of the dining room. We need a cake. We're celebrating. In the ensuing excitement, Izuku forgets all about the events leading up to his quirk manifesting. In fact, he only remembers once Papa is tucking him into bed. By the way, Izuku, how did you hurt your leg? Papa, how many quirks do you have? Hisashi slowly lowers his paper and almost wishes he hadn't. Izuku is staring at him, green eyes wide and sparkling. Why did he have to inherit those from Inko? Why? Hisashi ponders the best way to respond, because Izuku is asking what every law enforcement agency in the world would kill to know. Kurogyri thankfully comes to his rescue, warping into the room with Izuku's beloved All Might backpack. What did he ever do to deserve a fanboy? Wait, no, never mind. Izuku, it's time to go. Izuku's face falls, but he does not protest. He finishes his milk and jumps down from his chair, and Hisashi stands up to accept his morning hug. As Izuku follows Kurogiri out of the room to get his shoes, Hisashi can faintly hear him ask about the range of warp gate. He doesn't bother picking his paper back up. Instead he frowns, pours himself another cup of coffee, and calls his secretary to let her know he won't be able to make it into the office. He was older than Izuku when he first discovered his quirk, but then he had hardly been expecting to develop any sort of meta ability. It took years of trial and error to find all the drawbacks and limitations, and many more to master it fully. And of course those years brought with them pain, both mental and physical, pain that he would dearly love to spare Izuku. Really, the present situation is the worst-case scenario. No matter how well-behaved he may be, Izuku is still a child. Sooner or later, he'll slip up, and then it's just a matter of time before law enforcement comes knocking. Because Izuku is so excited about his quirk, and so curious to find out how it and others work. He considers taking all for one from his son and wiping the whole table incident from his memory. He can easily falsify medical records, after all, and Izuku need not remain quirkless. Inko's quirk is safely tucked away, just waiting to be transferred. And Izuku not returning immediately to daycare can be easily explained away. It is perfectly plausible that Izuku manifesting the same quirk as his recently deceased mother would be rather distressing. Hisashi sets down his coffee and leaves the kitchen. There's a bottle of whiskey waiting in his office. He needs to take Izuku's quirk. But when Izuku arrives home, bright-eyed and eager to tell anyone who will listen about the zoo, the elephant was even bigger than Makia. And there were baby tigers. He doesn't. He humors Izuku's sleepy request for a bedtime story, and even though his son dozes off midway, he still reads all the way to the end. He quietly closes the book and just sits and watches Izuku sleep. Although he has been trying, he knows he is far from a perfect father. The Bakugo debacle was proof of that. The situation snowballed because Izuku had no one to turn to, no one he could trust. Hisashi reaches out. His hand never shook before, he notes absent-mindedly. But he needs to maintain the illusion of a law-abiding family. He needs to keep heroes unaware of all for one's possible survival. Izuku's quirk has to... Papa! Izuku is barely audible as he mumbles and rolls over, sound asleep, but Hisashi jerks his back as if burnt. His eyes fall on the photo of Inko hanging over Izuku's bed, and suddenly he can't breathe. He needs to get out. He almost trips over his own feet as he hurries from the room. He presses himself to the wall outside, gasping for breath, even as Izuku sleeps on, blissfully unaware. He rakes his hand through his hair, trying to gather the courage to go back in, and does his best to ignore the crushing guilt. He needs to do this, but he keeps seeing Inko's face and the utter betrayal in her eyes, and he can't seem to find the words that would allow her to understand. And then her face slowly morphs, and he barely makes it to the bathroom before he's sick. Kurogiri appears, obviously concerned, but Hisashi can't bring himself to care. Because Izuku is smart and intelligent, and he could guess. And Hisashi would never be able to lie to him. All he can see is an older Izuku, an Izuku who looks so very much like his mother, who got absolutely nothing from his father, not even his name. An older Izuku, who is staring at him with such betrayal in his eyes. Papa, he hears a familiar voice on the other side of the door, and almost throws up again. He somehow swallows down the bile and does his best to keep his voice steady as he calls out, "Izuku, go back to bed." But Papa... He sees the door handle move, and his blood runs cold. He can't face Izuku, not now. Something inside him just snaps. "Izuku, go to bed." There's a muffled thump on the other side of the door, a faint sniffle, and then the soft patter of retreating footsteps. Hisashi did not know he could feel worse, but somehow he's managed it. He's never raised his voice at Izuku before, not once, not even when he was misbehaving. His son did nothing wrong, was probably simply concerned for his father. Hisashi groans and leans his head against the toilet. He completely forgets about Kurogiri, until the warper clears his throat. "I will make a pot of tea." There is no judgment in his tone, no reproach, and Hisashi is somewhat thankful. His own conscience is more than enough. Hisashi does not bother answering, he just closes his eyes and tries to figure out how to deal with this mess. Izuku is being a good boy. He sniffles and wipes angrily at his eyes. Tenya doesn't mind that he cries a lot, not like Kakin, but he still doesn't want to be a crybaby. Because what if Tenya decides he's too annoying? Izuku really likes having a friend that doesn't call him names or hurt him. Izuku doesn't know why Papa was angry, but obviously he did something really wrong. He frowns down at his picture. Papa must be really mad, because he wasn't there when Izuku came down for breakfast, and he didn't tuck Izuku in last night. Izuku wipes his nose and reaches for his red crayon. If he makes a really nice picture, maybe Papa won't be angry anymore. Izuku, don't wipe your nose on your sleeve. The crayon falls to the floor. Izuku can feel tears gathering, but he doesn't want to make Papa angrier. Kakin's right, he's stupid. He can't do anything right. Oh, Izuku, he hears Papa sigh. He doesn't dare look up as Papa walks over and crouches down next to his chair. Izuku, look at me please. He doesn't want to, but he also wants to be a good boy, so he obeys. Papa doesn't look angry. In fact, he looks sad as he takes in Izuku's tear-stained face. Oh, Izuku, Papa repeats, and pulls him into a tight hug. Izuku goes willingly, clinging to Papa as he sobs and apologizes, and Papa holds him and shushes him and repeats over and over how much he loves Izuku. Once Izuku has cried himself out, Papa helps him wipe his eyes and blow his nose, and they move to the sofa. Izuku clutches his plush and moves closer to Papa, who doesn't complain. Izuku, I need to apologize. Why? Izuku frowns and looks up to find Papa watching him with a sad smile. I shouldn't have shouted at you. Papa was sick and didn't want you to get ill too. But you were just worried, weren't you? Izuku nods. You just wanted to make sure I was all right. You didn't do anything wrong. I am very sorry for shouting at you, Izuku. Can you forgive me? Yes. Izuku immediately hugs his Papa, who chuckles. Since I was so mean, I brought you a present. Izuku kind of doesn't want to let go, but he's curious to know what his present is. Papa chuckles again and moves to crouch down in front of him, so they are face to face. Now Izuku, before I give you it, I need you to understand something about our quirk. It can be really strong, see, so Papa keeps it a secret, because otherwise bad people will want it, and they'll come and hurt us. Can you keep it a secret? Izuku nods hesitantly, although he doesn't quite understand. Good, Papa smiles and ruffles his hair. You're such a smart boy. If anyone asks, tell them you're like Mum, alright? Izuku nods again, this time with more confidence. Obviously it's not lying if Papa says he should say so, and Izuku can do that. Besides, taking quirks isn't really impressive. It's kind of scary. Izuku doesn't want Tenya to think he's a thief, because thieves are villains. Now, quirks are fascinating, aren't they? Yeah. Izuku immediately smiles and nods eagerly. I want to know all about them. Then I can be the bestest hero. You are definitely my son, Papa mutters with a smile. Izuku isn't sure what's so funny, but grown-ups are strange. He's quickly distracted. Anyway, Papa hands him his gift, and Izuku gasps. It's a really pretty notebook, with a fancy black cover, and a clasp, and gold letters that Izuku recognizes from the label on his coat. I thought you could write your notes about quirks in this. Izuku is about to take it, but then he realizes something and looks down guiltily. Papa, I can't write. Papa gasps. Oh, I'm so sorry, Izuku. I forgot you haven't learnt yet. Izuku wishes he hadn't said anything. Perhaps Papa will still let him keep the notebook. He might not be able to write in it, but he can draw heroes with cool quirks and his future costumes. He's about to suggest as much when Papa snaps his fingers. Of course. Since this is all my fault, I'll just have to write the notes for you. Then, when you can write them yourself, you can take over. We'll have to set aside time every day for the note-taking. Izuku almost knocks Papa over as he launches himself at him. The idea of learning about quirks is awesome, especially if he has a pretty notebook for observations. But the idea of Papa spending time every day helping him with his notes is even better. Kurogiri was always sure, growing up, that he knew what his future held. He would be a villain, not because he had some insatiable desire for money or destruction, or because he hated the world around him, but because he had to. His father, a petty criminal in Kyoto, made the most of his son's quirk until he finally got caught. Kurojairi enjoyed his time in foster care until he was told his father would be released. Then he ran away to Tokyo. Petty crime became his only means of survival, and any dreams he might have had of becoming a cook in some small, quaint cafe were ruthlessly squashed. He needed to remain emotionless to survive, he knew. But when he finally decided he needed to swear his loyalty to the fearsome all-for-one, he never expected his new role would be some sort of glorified butler/babysitter/taxi. And yet here he is, loading the washing machine with dirty bedding, whilst comforting a tearful child, rather than lying dead in a ditch or languishing in Tartarus. It's all right, he assures Izuku as he switches on the appliance. Accidents happen. Come on, I'll make you a bed on the sofa. Like most crises in the Midoriya household, it all started with gigantomachia. In this case, at least, it did not entail significant property damage. Instead, he came thundering down the stairs, shouting, "Little Lord is dying." Because everyone present was familiar with gigantomachia, there was no immediate panic. Midoriya, and it is still so strange to call all for one by them, lowered his coffee cup and with a sigh, gestured for Kurojairi to go check on Izuku. Which Kurojairi did, once he had switched off the stove. As it turned out, Izuku had come down with the flu, and so had to stay home from daycare. Which, since his father had a meeting with some politicians, and probably couldn't reschedule without creating a significant risk to civilian life as a suitable diversion, meant Kurojairi had to stay home and gigantomachia needed to go. Because gigantomachia should only be left alone with Izuku for short PRDS, with very clear instructions, once Midoriya has considered all possible outcomes. Kurojairi likes the giant well enough, but he is a walking disaster. Of course, gigantomachia protested, but Midoriya is a master of twisting the facts to his advantage. Kurojairi suspects it is not so much the result of a successful career as a villain, but more necessitated by several years interacting with his bodyguard. Kurojairi does not mind the change of plans. Midoriya may be a better boss than expected, but he has no illusions. From the moment Inko Midoriya answered her door, his fate was sealed. All for One is hardly going to allow him to waltz off into the sunset after learning his greatest secret. But, he reflects as he tucks Izuku in, it could be worse. He might not be happy, but there is an odd sort of contentment about his current domesticity. He is an opportunist, pure and simple. He never cared about All for One's ideology or admired the man himself, not like gigantomachia. And yet, out of the whole household, he probably has the most in common with the giant. Kurojairi smiles as he straightens a photo of Inko. "You should not be here." Gigantomachia exclaims. "Go away, Mist Man." Kurojairi tries not to take it personally. Even if he sighs at the nickname, how come Izuku can remember his name, and the decades-old, deadly giant insists on calling him a name straight out of a children's book? Midoriya is not particular about where his groceries come from, only that Izuku has a well-balanced diet, and Kurojairi takes full advantage of the credit card he's been issued. True, he could probably be quicker, but you can taste the difference. However, it is now important he gets the fish in the fridge as soon as possible, and having gigantomachia blocking the kitchen door is not appreciated. In fact, the giant seems determined not to let him in, and Kurojairi nearly drops one of his bags as he tries to get past the larger man. He almost falls flat on his but as gigantomachia pushes him back. And then, as if he has not been through enough humiliation in his life, the man grabs him under the shoulders, carries him out of the house, drops him on the doorstep and promptly slams the front door in his face. Kurojairi stares at it, flummoxed. Gigantomachia is odd at the best of times, but he has no idea what has prompted this. He sighs, briefly considers just taking the hint and going somewhere to get blind drunk, and then warps into the kitchen. Locking someone out tends to be more effective when said person cannot teleport. The kitchen is his refuge. He is the only one with an interest in cooking, and gigantomachia can barely fit in the room. Midoriya is a perfectly adequate cook, but Kurojairi is the only member of the household now who enjoys flipping through magazines, testing new recipes, and just creating. Perhaps one day Izuku will be interested in joining him, but for now, at least, the kitchen is regarded by everyone as Kurojire's room. So when he steps into the kitchen, he does not expect to find someone brandishing an egg whisk at him. What the? Midoriya mutters. Shouldn't you be shopping? The kitchen, his beautiful, perfect kitchen, looks like a war zone. The smell of burning something hangs in the air, and flour and sugar are spilt over the counters and floor. Midoriya's hair is disheveled and distinctly whiter than before, and the man looks positively haggard in his lilac apron. Izuku, in contrast, is positively beaming. Inko's apron is far too big on him, but as he's standing on a chair, it at least doesn't trail on the floor. There is colored icing smeared on his cheeks, like some feeble attempt at war paint. It is very hard to feel content as Kurojire looks at the kitchen and realizes how many hours it will take to clean up the mess. He really should have just taken the hint and gone to get drunk. Happy birthday, Kurojire. Izuku cheers. Then he frowns. But you have to go away until we bake your cake. Kurojire stares at the boy, dumbfounded. He doesn't celebrate his birthday, doesn't even know when. What do you mean you don't know? Inko huffs. You have to know when you were born. I'm sorry, ma'am. Kurojire shifts anxiously. He kind of wants to warp away, but Izuku is studying his fingers, fascinated, and he does not want to know how All for One would react if he dropped his son. Or kidnapped him, even accidentally. Oh, don't apologize, Inko groans. And don't call me ma'am, it makes me feel old. She finishes folding her washing and pauses to examine Kurojire. He shifts under her scrutiny and almost panics when she smiles. Well then, today's your birthday, she declares and vanishes off into her closet. Kurojire can only stare after her, dumbfounded, especially when she emerges seconds later with some sort of parcel. Happy birthday, she cheers as she presents it to him. Happy, Izuku shouts. And once Hisashi's back, I'll teach you how to bake a cake. Kurojire? Do you not like cake? Izuku asks as Kurojire wipes at his eyes. No, he pauses to swallow. I like cake. I like it a lot. But I like baking it even more. Wonderful. Midoriya's shoulders slump in relief. What do we do first? Kurojire takes in the man's haggard appearance and reaches a decision. You can get out of my kitchen, Kurojire informs him. There might still be hope for Izuku, but it says a lot that Midoriya doesn't protest. As he helps Izuku measure out the flour, Kurojire smiles. Perhaps he can be happy after all. The biggest challenge of civilian life, Hisashi muses as he steps into the elevator, is resisting the temptation to murder foolish upstarts. It has become easier over the years, especially when he knows Izuku is waiting in his office, and it's still such a novel concept. Having an actual office with a desk and a secretary. Mr. Someone tugs on his jacket and slowly, ever so slowly, he looks down. Why does it feel like he's started collecting children? The youngest Todoroki beams up at him, recognizable despite his now black hair, and Hisashi can only despair. He knows the child snuck up on him because he is no threat. Hisashi could end him with a flick of the wrist. If he keeps reminding himself of that, perhaps it will help him feel better about how much his instincts have dulled in the past few years. Or he could ask Izuku for a hug. Izuku's hugs do make everything better. What is it? Hisashi asks with a sigh as the lift dings and the doors open. Thank you for punching my father. The boy grins as he follows Hisashi like a little duckling. Or a lamb to the slaughter. You're welcome, he sighs. He's about to instruct his secretary to contact the former Mrs. Todoroki when an idea occurs to him. He slowly crouches before the young boy and asks, ignoring his secretary's muffled giggles, because he's a retired supervillain and just because his fiendish plans aren't quite as ambitious as before doesn't mean they're any less impressive. Tell me, Todoroki, how do you feel about heroes? My name's not Todoroki, the kid insists, because of course that's the most important issue at hand. He puffs up his chest and, with that stubborn tilt of the head that has Hisashi's fatherly instincts screaming in terror, he declares, My name is Shoto Yukiyama. Well, at least the former Mrs. Todoroki was smart enough to change her name. Wonderful, Hisashi answers and stands up. He's relieved when he opens the door to find Izuku and Gigantomachia are only drawing spread out on the floor. He just hopes none of the papers are important documents. Gigantomachia can somehow turn the most innocent activity into a crisis. "Papa!" Izuku exclaims as he looks up from his paper, that wonderful smile of his on his face. Then he spots Yukiyama and frowns, obviously puzzled. "Who's that?" "Izuku, this is Shoto," Hisashi informs his son as he clambers to his feet. "I'm going to go find his mum, so play nicely for now, alright?" "Okay." Izuku chirps like the beam of sunshine he is, and then dashes forwards and hugs his father. Hisashi allows himself to enjoy it, and ignores the sneaking suspicion he has that goofy smile on his face. Then his son lets him go and turns his green eyes on Shoto. The other boy is hesitant at first, but Izuku, and soon manages to coax him forwards. Hisashi tries not to dwell on how Shoto perks up when Izuku offers him his All Might plush. The public relations department is in a state of what could be best described as organized chaos. Hisashi is not entirely sure who thought Shoto might be hiding in the paper shredders, although he is glad he left Izuku upstairs. No need to give him any ideas about indoor snow. The mother at least is easy to locate. She has a rather bad hair dye job. She's sitting next to her supervisor and she looks like she's on the verge of a panic attack, and Hisashi wishes he couldn't relate quite so well. "Yukiyama?" he asks, and her head shoots up. He almost expects her to keel over as the color drains from her face. "I believe I have something of yours," he states, and has to desperately stamp down on his glee as absolute silence falls. At least he can still inspire fear. "I'm so sorry," Rei blurts out, and Hisashi sighs as she starts to sob. This is his life now, stray kids and over-emotional women. "It's fine," he assures her as he swipes a box of tissues from one of the desks. He really shouldn't have gotten out of the habit of carrying several packs around, but they reminded him too much of Inko. And if he happens to notice Inko's crying was a lot more attractive than the former Mrs. Todoroki, no one will ever know. "I am so sorry," the woman repeats. "I swear I never brought him in before. My babysitter canceled, and I didn't know what to do." "It's fine." Hisashi cuts in. He might be a bit sharp, but it does the trick. He sighs again. He has a lot less practice comforting panicking mothers than mentally torturing people. "I have no intentions of firing you. I'd just like you to retrieve Shoto before he burns down my office." At least motherly indignation snaps her out of fretting over job security. She draws herself up and in a frosty tone declares, "I'll have you know Shoto is very well behaved." "It's not Shoto I'm worried about," Hisashi shrugs and turns away. He can hear the woman sputter and hurry to catch up to him, but doesn't slow his pace. He knows Izuku, present him with an interesting quirk and there's no stopping him. And he knows full well who Izuku takes after. It's strange how pride can mix so well with terror. The lift ride passes in silence. Hisashi can tell the woman is more than a little worried about how she spoke to him, but he has his own concerns. Surely Gigantomachia knows not to let them experiment in his office. Surely fear of his lord's disapproval will overrule his fondness for Izuku. Thankfully, nothing is on fire when he opens the door. Izuku is practically vibrating with excitement, bombarding Shoto with questions which the other boy doesn't even seem to be trying to answer. Gigantomachia is watching them with a beaming smile, seemingly unaware of the large patch of ice covering the floor. "Shoto," the former Mrs. Todoroki exclaims, rushing over to her son. And almost slipping on the ice. Hisashi wonders if the cleaners will be able to remove it, or if there is some sort of specialist company his secretary should call. Izuku's smile seems to dim as he watches the mother and son, and it cuts Hisashi to the core. But then he perks up and rushes over to his father. "Papa, guess what?" he exclaims, green eyes sparkling as he tugs at Hisashi's jacket. "Shoto wants to be a hero too. And his quirk's so cool. And he loves All Might, too." "Wonderful," Hisashi sighs as he ruffles his son's curls. "Another one for the peanut gallery. And Shoto's never had cake before." Izuku frowns, obviously outraged, And Hisashi feels a smile tug at his lips at the adorable sight. So I said he could come to my birthday party? And then, in a move that has Hisashi's heart brimming with pride, Izuku looks up at him, green eyes wide and gleaming. Can he, Papa? Please? Intentional or not, such blatant manipulation needs to be encouraged. They have years to work on refining technique. Izuku is smart enough that a few lessons on human psychology should go a long way. What say you, Yukiyama? Hisashi asks the woman, who just looks at him, puzzled. Izuku's birthday is next week, and apparently he'd like Shoto to attend. May I, Mama? The boy in question tugs on his mother's hand. Please. Izuku hurries back over. It'll be fun. And you don't even have to bring me a present. The woman hesitates as two pairs of wide eyes gaze up at her. Then Shoto frowns. But it's your birthday, he points out as he turns to Izuku. Yeah, but... Izuku shrugs, and then an idea seems to occur to him. Do you want to be friends? Yes. Shoto immediately nods, and Izuku beams as he spins back to look at Hisashi. Papa, I got a new friend, he exclaims, and then turns back to Shoto. Legos are fun, but I'd rather you be my friend. So you gave me a present. Shoto beams himself, obviously delighted, and then looks up at his mother. Mama, I've got a friend. And if you come, you can meet Tenya. Izuku continues. And he's my friend too, and nice, and you can be friends with him too. And then we'll all be friends. Mama, can I go? Please? Shoto tugs on his mother's hand. Please? Please? If Mr. Midoriya doesn't mind, the woman agrees hesitantly, and Shoto smiles. It is a small smile, nothing like Izuku's beaming smile as he cheers and grabs hold of Shoto's hand, but Hisashi knows it must mean the world to the Yukiyama. There will still be many more years of tears, of irrational fear, perhaps even despair. But there will be more moments like this, Izuku chattering away, telling Shoto all about his best friend. Moments that make it all worth it, moments that as a parent you sear into your memory so you never forget. And as he passes Yukiyama a box of tissues, Hisashi knows Inko would be proud. Izuku isn't entirely sure an aquarium will be a fun place for a birthday party. How fun can looking at fishies be, after all? But Tenya said it would be educational, and Shoto said he wanted to see penguins. And Papa seemed certain Izuku would like it. Right? Izuku, hold on to my hand, Papa instructs as he lifts Izuku off his shoulders. We need to wait here for your friends, and then a very special person will meet us to tell us all about the fish. Izuku still is not convinced how fun it'll be, but he soon spots Shoto and waves him over. Happy birthday, his new friend wishes him, still clutching his mums. Izuku isn't sure why he seems so scared, because no one is yelling. But he can understand being shy, since he remembers how nervous he was when he first met Tenya. And if Shoto is worried with him like he was with Tenya, then all he has to do is be an awesome friend. Tenya'll be here soon. Izuku informs Shoto with a smile. Shoto'll probably be nervous around Tenya, after all, so Izuku needs to let him know his best friend is nice and not at all scary, even if he can be kind of loud. Tenya's my best friend. He has an awesome quirk, and he's gonna be a hero too. He gasps as an idea occurs to him. We could all be heroes together. The idea is so wonderful, Izuku can't wait till Tenya arrives to tell him. They'll have to start thinking about hero names and moves, and he still needs to figure out how Shoto's quirk works, and... Izuku, you're muttering. Papa gently tugs on his hand, and Izuku snaps out of his musings. Papa had laughed when he'd first found out about it, and then said he used to do the same when he was small, so Izuku doesn't feel embarrassed about muttering anymore. Kaken was obviously wrong when he said it was freaky, because Papa's not freaky. Papa is trying to help him stop doing it, though, even if there's no rush. 'Cause if he has to fight a villain has really good hearing, the villain might overhear Izuku's plan. Papa is so smart to think of it. Izuku made sure to give him extra hugs when he agreed to help Izuku stop muttering. Izuku returns to searching the entrance room and cheers as he spots Tensei. He grabs Shoto's hand and pulls him and, because he's a good boy, Papa over to the Ida brothers. Hisashi goes willingly, barely controlling his snickering. "Happy birthday, Izuku." Tenya grins at his friend, and then pauses when he notices the unfamiliar boy next to him. "Hi Tenya, hi Tensei." Izuku beams. This is Shoto. He wants to be a hero too. Then he frowns as he remembers the shocking discovery he made earlier. And he's never had cake. Tenya gasps, suitably horrified, and Tensei lets out an undignified snort at the expression on the boys' faces. Said snorting only gets worse when two pairs of large eyes turn on him, outraged. Hisashi is so grateful for all those showdowns against one-for-all users. They did wonders for his poker face. "I'm Tenya, and this is my brother, Tensei." Tenya introduces himself and then leans in close to Shoto and adds in a hushed voice, "He's a hero. With a license." Shoto looks suitably impressed, glancing up at the young man who grins and waves, and Izuku beams. He might not know why Shoto is scared and sad, but Tenya can help. Tenya helped Izuku when Kaken made him feel sad, and now Izuku knows all about what a good friend is like. Tickets have been paid for, so how about we go find out guide? Papa suggests. "I think you'll really like him, Izuku." Izuku still isn't convinced, but he follows his papa through the turnstiles and into the lift. Tenya is excitedly telling Shoto about Ingenium whilst Tensei pretends not to hear, Shoto glancing up at the young hero with increasing admiration. As soon as the lift doors open, Izuku gasps. "It's Gang Orca." The hero is hovering awkwardly by the first tank, dressed in civilian clothes with a name tag pinned to his shirt. Most of the patrons are giving him a wide berth. Izuku immediately makes to run over to him. He stops halfway, runs back, and grabs Shoto's hand. Rei Yukiyama does laugh at the adorable sight, especially when Tenya catches up to them and grabs her son's free hand. Hisashi has no time to coo though, there are pictures to be taken. "Hi, Mr. Gang Orca, sir." Izuku greets the hero with a beaming smile and sparkling eyes. "I'm Izuku. This is my best friend Tenya, and my new friend, Shoto. We're going to be heroes." "We're the 11 o'clock tour," Papa supplies as the adults join them. Mrs. Yukiyama is wiping at her eyes, and Izuku would wonder if she's sick, but she's obviously excited to meet a hero. Izuku can completely understand crying when you're really happy. He'll have to make sure to get her an autograph too. "Oh yes," Gang Orca smiles. Izuku thinks he's smiling, at least, it's kind of hard to tell. "Now, have any of you boys visited before? It's educational. If I don't become a hero, I'll be a rheologist." "That's not a real title, Tenya," Tensei laughs. His brother's frown only deepens as he draws himself up to his full height. "It will be when I grow up." Izuku smiles from where he's watching the two. Tenya really liked the manta rays, and Izuku can kind of understand why, because they were really big and really cool. He had a hard time deciding on a favorite, because apparently the sea has a lot of awesome animals, not all of which were fish. Finally he settled on jellyfishies, cause they're really pretty, although he made sure to tell Gang Orca just how hard it was to decide between them and orcas. "Which are dolphins?" He can't wait to tell Miss Tanaka. Shoto has already left, proudly carrying his brand new penguin plush. Izuku still does not understand why the grown-ups wouldn't let Shoto freeze some of the penguin enclosure if their cooling machine thing wasn't working. Penguins like ice, after all. But Shoto still really liked them, and promptly declared when he becomes a hero, he'll be the ice hero, Penguin. Izuku yawns and frowns as he thinks about Shoto's mum. He still doesn't quite know why she needed tissues earlier, when Tenya told her Shoto's awesome, or why she excused herself when the three of them posed together. But then grown-ups are strange, Izuku knows. "Right, Izuku, time to go," Papa tells him as he lifts him up, and Izuku waves sleepily at the two brothers as they say goodbye. Papa doesn't seem to mind carrying him, so Izuku wraps his arms around Papa's neck and makes himself comfortable. He's tired and kind of wants to sleep, but he also really needs to tell Papa something. "Papa, I like the aquarium," he admits, and smiles when he feels Papa chuckle. But there's more, and he can feel his eyes drifting closed, but this is important. "I love you, Papa. You're the best Papa ever." Yes, Izuku reflects as he drifts off to sleep, grown-ups really are strange. Why would Papa cry if Izuku just told him the truth? Foolish heroes. You thought your pathetic attacks would have any effect on me? Leave now and I may spare you, but stay and your lives are forfeit. You know as well as I do, you cannot win. Yes, we can. Izuku cheers as he jumps out from behind a tree. Penguin, Ingenium, let's work together. If we do, we can't lose. Tenya adds as he joins his friend. Hisashi is tempted to point out that no competent hero would be foolish enough to even attempt to monologue during a showdown with a powerful villain, or emerge from cover without a plan of attack, but he's not just about to blast his son, now is he. Instead, he draws himself up to his full height and laughs his most unsettling, sinister laugh. He notes with some satisfaction that Tenya shudders, but Izuku is unbothered. They regularly play heroes at home, after all, and it was fairly quickly established that Hisashi makes for a great villain. Penguin! Freeze his legs! Izuku yells, and Hisashi smiles proudly as he realizes the two boys were distracting him so Shoto could get into position behind him. Of course he knew where the third child was, but still, a decent strategy that would work on a lesser opponent. Unfortunately, Shoto is still fairly new to the concept of playing heroes and obeys. The layer of ice that covers Hisashi's shoes is thin enough that he could easily break it with force alone, but that wouldn't be very fun. So instead, Hisashi gasps and flails dramatically. Izuku cheers. Alright, Ingenium, now's our chance. Let's go! The two boys charge him, and latch onto his legs, giggling, and Hisashi lets out a howl. No. How can this be? The mighty Alt 41 defeated. He clutches at his chest. You have discovered my weakness. Izuku's face is lit up by the brightest smile possible as he lets go and pulls Tenya away, and Hisashi can't help but smile himself as he dramatically collapses to the ice-covered ground. Mr. Midoriya, are you all right? Shoto asks hesitantly as he approaches the adult. No, Hisashi sighs. I'm dead. Shoto! All four of them turn to look at where Rei Yukiyama has just emerged from the house, carrying a tray filled with drinks. She turns to Tenya's mother and would probably bow if she could. I am so sorry, Ida. It's fine, the woman waves off her apology. I've been trying to get Takeshi to do something about the garden. And besides, accidents happen, especially when you're having fun. Rei does not look convinced, but doesn't protest. Shoto sniffs and wipes at his eyes, and Hisashi is uncomfortably reminded of how new the boy is to playing with his peers. Izuku seems to pick up on it too, because he hurries over to his friend, excited. That was so awesome. You'll be such an amazing hero. Shoto glances up, and Tenya quickly joins them. That's a practical way to immobilize. Immobilize, Ida calls over. Immobilize an opponent. Come on, let's have some juice, Hisashi suggests. Lying on ice-covered grass is only fun for a short PRD of time. He's really looking forward to discreetly using one of his heat-based quirks to warm himself up. He resists the urge to sigh as he sees Shoto inch behind Izuku, and instead smiles at the trio as he gets to his feet. That was some pretty impressive teamwork, you lot. Thanks, Papa. Izuku beams. Then he grabs Shoto's hand and drags him over to the two women, Tenya following close behind. You were pretty impressive yourself, Ida remarks as Hisashi joins them. I swear, you sounded so much like an actual villain, I got chills. Hisashi laughs awkwardly. Well, I get a lot of practice. Izuku loves playing heroes. Papa's a great villain. Izuku pipes up, and Hisashi quickly takes a swig to stop from bursting into laughter. Where's you come up with that name? Rei asks, and suddenly Hisashi wishes he had a better imagination. Alt 14. Alt 41. Izuku corrects her. Thank heavens for Izuku, Hisashi will buy him that limited edition All Might poster, he swears. He's an evil robot, and he wants to take over the world. But his big weakness are hugs, so if you hug him, his battery drains. Like a phone. Hisashi finds some solace in the knowledge that neither of the snickering women are aware of his true identity. Still, if he ever comes out of retirement, he might want to level Tokyo, just to be safe. Reputation is vital to a competent villain after all. The boys quickly finish their juice and run off, jumping over the patch of ice. Rei and Ida exchange glances, and Hisashi suspects there's a conspiracy in the works. Midoriya, when did you last take a day off? Hisashi frowns, puzzled. Today is my day off. I had last weekend off too. No, I mean completely off, Ida sighs. A day off from everything, Izuku included. I don't need time off from that, Hisashi snorts. He isn't sure what they're getting at. Have they not seen Izuku laugh? The two women exchange looks as if he's the strange one. What do you do for fun? Ida huffs. And playing heroes doesn't count. Quirk analysis? Hisashi fidgets as Rei winces and Ida groans. No, Midoriya, that's your job. What do you do for fun? Quirk analysis. The women exchange horrified glances. Midoriya, I think you should take a few hours off, Rei suggests gently. I have to watch Izuku. Izuku can come over to our place, Ida shrugs. He'll be safe for a few hours. And if it'll make you feel better, Kurogyari can come too, and hang out in the kitchen in case of the apocalypse. Hisashi is about to protest, but then Rei plays the trump card. Inko wouldn't want you to neglect yourself. Hisashi does not have much experience with hobbies. Professional supervillainy does not generally leave much spare time, especially when one is married with a small child. Just remembering Izuku's first months is exhausting. Which is why, when Kurogyari requisitions Izuku and vanishes off to the Ida home, he does not know what to do with himself. Doing origami for hours is not an exciting prospect. Kurogyari is likely to pitch a fit if he ruins another cake tin, and what do people even do for hobbies, anyway? He's bored enough he ends up sprawled on the sofa, remote in hand. The house is far too quiet without Izuku. If he has to suffer through this time to himself, he at least needs some background noise, damn it. Unfortunately, the first thing on the screen is Endeavor's face. Fortunately, the remote narrowly misses the TV and just makes a hole in the wall. The interviewer is just asking the BSRD about his family's disappearance. Hisashi cackles. Somewhere in Okinawa, All Might shudders. Enji Todoroki slams the door to his apartment with a muttered curse. Since his wife ran off with his kids, he's been living in a flat at his agency. It makes his life a hell of a lot easier, especially since he has to do so much overtime to pay goddamn divorce lawyers and that ridiculous fine. He extinguishes his flames and is just unbuckling his gauntlets when he flips the light switch and freezes. The whole room has been trashed. Broken furniture is strewn about, loose pages cover the floor, and on the wall opposite the entrance someone has painted, in huge black letters, "I know what you did." Endeavor has about 2 seconds of supreme confusion. Then the fire alarm goes off. Rei knows the past few years have been difficult, especially for her children, but this year will be different. This year she is going to give them the best Christmas ever. Last Christmas ended up consisting of 2 buckets of fried chicken, a marathon of pirated Doctor Who's on the battered laptop she bought third hand, and passing out around 2 a.m. Rei personally isn't sure she can ever top it. Christmas is expensive, but the least she can do is make sure all her kids get something they really want. She's already picked up that iPod for Fuyumi and headphones for Tuya. She's just on the search for a store that still has an All Might Silver Age action figure when she spots a familiar face. God no. What if he sees her? What should she do? He's standing between her and the exit, and she doesn't know what to do, can't breathe, because she's happy, and she doesn't want to go back. She can't go back. How can she ever? Aiko, a familiar voice exclaims, and a man steps in front of her, perfectly placed so as Enji won't be able to see her. I had no idea you were here today. I'm Hisashi, remember? Inko's husband? Rei could kiss Midoriya. She settles on hugging him, and pitches her voice higher. Oh Hisashi, it's so good to see you again. How about we get coffee and catch up? Midoriya suggests. It's been so long since we last spoke. Oh yes, Rei giggles. I need a break from these crowds. She doesn't protest when her boss leads her further into the mall, away from Enji. They slip out through a clothing store, hurry along crowded streets and only stop after 15 minutes in a half-empty park. Midoriya heads off to get them some coffee, and Rei tries to stop her hands from shaking as she waits on a bench. Thank you so much. She does her best to smile when the man returns. There was someone I'm avoiding there. I know, Midoriya shrugs. Rei suddenly has a terrible sinking feeling. If Midoriya knows. If he suspects Rei might cause him trouble with heroes. If he thinks she's too much trouble. I don't agree with domestic abuse, Midoriya shrugs. Especially when children are involved. I was fully aware of your past when I hired you, and I don't give a f about Endeavor's lying but. Rei stares for a moment in wonder at the man. Then she bursts into tears. It takes her longer than she would like to admit to calm down. Midoriya doesn't comment. He just pulls a box of tissues out of somewhere and allows her to cry herself calm, sipping his coffee and every now and then reaching out to awkwardly pat her on the shoulder. Thank you so much, she chokes out as soon as she can. I can't tell you how much this means. Don't mention it, Midoriya shrugs. They sit in silence for a while. Rei takes a sip of her coffee and winces at its lukewarm temperature. She isn't entirely sure what to do or say, but finally she feels awkward enough to try and make small talk. So, why do you carry around a mega box of tissues? Midoriya looks down at the pack, as if he's only just realized he's holding it. Oh, this? He smiles, but there's a tinge of sadness to it. Rei almost wants to apologize, because she's intruding. Inko, my wife, was rather emotional, he chuckles. And Izuku seems to take after her. Oh, Rei nods. There are several rumors going around the office about Midoriya's wife, and, well, she's curious. What was she like? She was wonderful, Midoriya sighs. She was so full of love, so kind. He pauses and smiles. Actually, in a way, she is the reason I wanted to speak to you. I was wondering if your family would like to come over at Christmas. What? Rei is certain she must have misheard. The boss cannot have just invited her over. Christmas is a small affair, Midoriya shrugs. It's just me, Izuku and 2 domestic staff. And my cook always makes too much food. We have more than enough room, and of course I would buy gifts for your whole family. Why? Honestly, it's because Izuku likes Shoto, Midoriya shrugs again, but then adds, and I think Inko would have loved you. Rei considers it carefully and then nods. Alright. Do you mind if I bring fried chicken? Midoriya's house is not the huge mansion Rei pictured. It is still nice, of course, and certainly larger than Rei's apartment, but if she had to describe it, the best word would probably be cozy. She would check the address, but the whole neighborhood is just nice and quiet, not a single posh mansion in sight. Her children aren't nearly as apprehensive as her, and Natsuo eagerly rings the doorbell. Merry Christmas, Midoriya greets them when he opens the door. Rei almost does a double take. Her boss is wearing a Santa hat and a red, green and white knitted Christmas sweater. Then he turns and shouts back into the house, Izuku! Shoto's here! Shoto! Izuku cheers as the Yukiyama family enter the living room. This is Makia. Makia, this is Shoto. He's my friend. Makia is apparently a very large man, wearing reindeer antlers and a red nose. Rei recognizes him faintly from the office, although at the time she assumed he was a security guard Midoriya recruited to watch the boys. The giant beams as they all stare at him and waves. Hello. You make little Lord happy. I will protect you. Shoto is the first of them to recover, and beams as he draws himself up and turns to his family. This is my big brother, Tia, and my sister, Fuyumi, and Natsuo. Why do I not get a proper introduction? Natsuo grumbles. Fuyumi elbows him in the ribs. Hi, Izuku. It's great to meet you. Tia grins and reaches out to ruffle Izuku's hair. Shoto told us a lot about you. 'Cause he's great. Shoto pipes up, obviously not wanting his friend to get the wrong idea. As the children are finishing their introductions, Rei takes the opportunity to look around the room. She's going to get free coffee for a month if she can pass information back to her colleagues, after all. The whole room is decked out in a strange assortment of exquisite ornaments and homemade decorations, much like the tree itself, which is taller than Makia, and Ray isn't entirely sure how they even managed to get it through the door. It certainly feels like she has stepped into a Christmas card, and she pauses as she spots a large picture of a green-haired woman placed right next to the tree. Remembering the bucket of fried chicken she's carrying, Ray slips out of the room to find the kitchen. The whole house is so warm, she reflects. She can faintly hear the children laughing, and it brings a smile to her face. She still can't quite get over Midoriya's kindness, and she wishes she could have found him a decent gift. There is someone in the kitchen, obviously the cook. Ray doesn't want to startle him, so she clears her throat as she sets her bag down. Then the person turns and Ray gasps. "It's you," she whispers, because standing before her is Mist Man. Natsuo came up with the name, and it seemed appropriate. She knows she's getting emotional, but she can't care. This man gave her family freedom. There is no way she can ever express all the gratitude she feels. Midoriya mutters behind her. Mistman is here. Midoriya knows about Enji. She got a job at his company with no references, under a new name. "Thank you so much," she sobs as she turns to her boss. "I think she knows, sir," Mistman states. "Whatever would I do without you, Kurogyri?" "And you," she turns back. She can't decide who she wants to hug first. "It's Mistman," Fuyumi exclaims, and then 3 children are shoving past Midoriya to hug. "Kurogyri. Is it too late to wipe their memories? Don't you dare." Ray hisses. She wipes at her eyes. "Don't you dare." Then something occurs to her, and suddenly she can't hold back her laughter. "Don't tell me you really punched Enji." Midoriya shifts awkwardly. "It was an accident?" "Holy shit," Tuya mutters. Guess Shoto wasn't lying. It is not as good as last year, but Christmas is still a success. The big man, Makia, does knock over the tree, twice, and Kurogyri is forced to pop out for more chicken. But Makia is also an immediate success with the younger boys, especially when they head out to catch Santa. And then when Kurogyri arrives back, he also happens to be carrying a few more gifts. "I failed," Makia sniffs as the 3 young boys run back in and spot the new presents. "Don't worry, Gigantamakia," Midoriya pats the giant on the arm. "Santa is very sneaky. You'll get him next year." "Why do you want to catch Santa?" Ray asks as the boys start sorting through the presents. "Because little Lord deserves everything." Makia perks up. "So I will catch Santa. And then he will have all the presents." "Look, Mum." Fuyumi saves her from having to come up with an appropriate response. Ray tears up when she unwraps her present from her children. It's a photo album, filled to the brim with the few photos they took when they left, and the dozens they took since. She is rather puzzled when Midoriya hands her an empty album, until Shoto opens up his gift from the man, and Izuku immediately races off to his room. The first photo for the new album is taken 5 minutes later, of a beaming Shoto and Izuku, dressed in matching All Might onesies. Izuku knows something is up as soon as he leaves his room. Normally Makia is waiting in the corridor outside his bedroom, because apparently he needs protecting from something, but today there's no sign of the giant. Izuku pokes his head into Makia's room just in case he's sick. Can Makia even get sick? But the man isn't there. Izuku shrugs it off, because maybe Papa has gone on a business trip and taken Makia with him. It kind of stings to think Papa would leave without saying goodbye, but Izuku's a big boy and he won't cry. When Izuku enters the kitchen, however, it's not Kurogyri standing over the stove. Instead, Papa is flipping pancakes. "Morning, Izuku," Papa greets him. "Breakfast is almost ready." "Where's Makia?" Izuku asks as he sits down and pours himself a glass of milk. "And Kurogyri?" "I gave them the day off," Papa informs him as he serves the pancakes. "I wanted it to be just the 2 of us. And there's something I need to talk to you about." Izuku doesn't comment on how Papa's pancakes look distinctly more burnt than his own. He's too busy trying to figure out what could be serious enough that Papa wants to talk to him alone. Could he have found out about Izuku's experiments with half hot, half cold? Or about how he accidentally took Makia's quirk last week? He gave it back immediately, and Makia buried his shorts, but Papa probably picked up a mind-reading quirk at some point. Muttering, Papa informs him with a smile, and Izuku hurriedly shovels a forkful of pancake into his mouth. But Papa doesn't look mad as they finish eating. He doesn't even really seem to notice Izuku as they clear the table and move into the living room. Izuku notices he's taking deep breaths, and there are several boxes of tissues on the coffee table that weren't there when he went to bed the day before. Unsure what to do, he sits down on the sofa and watches as Papa retrieves a large photo album. Right, Izuku? Papa turns to him, and Izuku isn't sure what to feel as he realizes Papa's smile is just a little bit forced. How much do you remember of your mother? Izuku hesitates, because he knows his answer will hurt, and he feels so guilty already, but then he reminds himself that Papa loves him. So he curls up a little, looks down and mumbles, "Not much." It's fine. He feels Papa sit down next to him and pull him closer. You were really young when she died. I thought it might be a nice idea for us to spend today remembering her. I'd like that, Izuku admits as he wipes at his eyes. Because he would, there are photos of her throughout the house, and she looks really pretty, and he makes sure to say goodnight to her every night, but he doesn't know her. Papa doesn't speak for a minute, but Izuku can understand, he must still miss Mum, so it's really nice he wants to tell Izuku about her. Finally he chuckles and shakes his head and speaks. Her name was Inko. She was the most wonderful woman I ever met. He laughs and wipes at his eyes. She was so kind and so selfless. And I don't think I ever saw a more devoted mother. Really? Izuku breathes. Really? Papa chuckles. I don't even know how I can make you understand how much she loved you. She always put you first, even when she got sick. In fact, Papa takes a deep breath. She gave me something for you. Close your eyes. Izuku obeys immediately. His mum sounds so nice and so loving, and if she gave Papa a gift for him, especially something that he's only getting now, it must be something really special. Nothing happens at first, though. Papa doesn't even seem to move, and Izuku is about to ask about it, when he senses something change. It's small, and it's warm, and it's light, and Izuku's eyes shoot open to stare at Papa even as he feels the quirk, his mum's quirk, settle in his chest. Papa is watching him, tears rolling down his cheeks, and Izuku almost wants to give it back. But he also doesn't, because Mum gave Papa her quirk because she wanted Izuku to have it, and she gave it to Papa before Izuku got a quirk of his own, and it feels almost like he has a piece of his mum's love in his chest. Your mother wanted you to have her quirk, Papa whispers and presses a kiss to Izuku's forehead. Izuku doesn't need Papa to tell him, but it feels almost like Papa is reminding himself. And she wrote you a letter. He passes Izuku an envelope and makes to get up, but Izuku grabs onto his shirt. Papa doesn't say anything, just makes himself comfortable, and Izuku cuddles up to him. The envelope is addressed to Izuku Midoriya, and is unopened, and Izuku takes a moment to appreciate it. Because this is a letter Mum wrote to him, and Papa kept it safe for so long but never once opened it. Izuku can be the very first to know what his mum said. Izuku takes a deep breath and opens the letter. Darling Izuku, you must have grown so much since I last saw you. I'm sorry if there are any tear stains on this letter. I swear, I've rewritten it 3 times, but whenever I think of you reading this, I just can't help myself. I'm certain Papa will tell you, I can get rather emotional. Since you are reading this, Papa must have finally given you my quirk. It is called attraction. It can pull small objects towards you. I know it is nothing impressive, not like your Papa's or All Might's, but I hope you will understand why I wanted you to have it. Izuku, I do not know what quirk you have, or even if you have one at all. Frankly, it doesn't matter. I would love you as much if you had 100 quirks as if you had none. But I have had my quirk since I was a child. It is as much a part of me as my smile, or my love for you. I have carried it next to my heart, and I hope now you will carry it too. When I asked your Papa to take it, I wanted it to be proof that I love you. I always have and always will. So, Izuku, I know you probably don't remember much of me, if anything at all, and that's all right. I don't blame you for that, so don't ever think I might. But I hope every day you wake up, every time you use attraction, you will know just how much I love you. Perhaps I should speak of my hopes and dreams for you. I hope you smile every day. I hope you have good friends you can play with, and I hope your papa is always ready with a hug. I hope there are many people in your life that treasure you, because you are a wonderful, incredible boy, and I am so proud to call you my son. The only thing I regret is that I will not have the opportunity to meet the person you will become. But I need you to know that I would never give you up for anything. I understand why people say a mother would die for her child. I would never trade you, not if I could live to 100. Being your mother was the greatest joy and privilege of my life, so thank you so much for being born. I will miss many important moments in your life, but there are so many memories I can cherish. I was the first thing you saw upon being born. I got to see the absolute love on your papa's face when he held you for the first time. I was your second word. Your papa was so proud he got to be the first. You took your first steps as you reached for me. There are more precious moments than I have words, and if you ask Papa, he will have photos. Your papa took so many photos. Ask him about the confiscation. He'll know what you mean. I do have one request, though, Izuku. Make sure your papa knows how much you love him. Make sure you know how much he loves you. And tell him I love him so much, almost as much as I love you. Tell him I am so grateful for all those small, perfect moments he gave me. I love you, Izuku. Always have and always will. Your mama. Inko Midoriya chapter text. Shoto isn't sure he's looking forward to school. He understands why he can't go to the same school as Izuku and Tenya, he thinks, but it doesn't change the fact he is ever so slightly scared. Because he might be in the same school as Natsuo, but they won't be in the same class. Shoto won't know anyone. And Izuku and Tenya will be together every day, and they knew each other before Shoto came along, and what if they decide they don't want him anymore? What if they find someone else to be their friend, and leave Shoto all alone again? Shoto sniffs and wipes furiously at his eyes. He knows he's being unfair. It's why he hasn't told his friends, because what if they get angry that Shoto thinks they might leave him behind? He doesn't want them to be angry at him, especially if they're going to different schools. Oh, Shoto. Shoto freezes and feels the tears getting worse. Because now Mama will be worried and sad, and Shoto doesn't like that. He promised himself that he'd never make Mama cry, and now she probably will. Are you scared of your new school? Mama asks as she settles down on the floor next to him. Shoto presses his face into his penguin plush and shakes his head. Then he hesitates and shrugs. Is it because you're scared Izuku and Tenya won't want to be your friends anymore? Shoto nods. He should have known Mama would guess. She's so smart after all, but now she's probably going to tell him he's being silly, because he is, because Izuku and Tenya would never. I understand. Shoto pauses and slowly turns his head so he can see Mama from one eye. Mama just smiles and puts her arm around his shoulders. Izuku was your very first friend, after all, but both he and Tenya were friends before you came along. And of course you'll be going to a different school, and we don't exactly live nearby. Shoto sniffles because she's exactly right. And what if they find someone better at their school? I can't promise you'll stay friends, Mama sighs. But Izuku and Tenya, they're good boys. And you can still meet up on weekends. And maybe you'll be able to find another friend at school. Shoto isn't so sure. Izuku and Tenya are the bestest friends ever, and he doesn't think he can ever find anyone nearly as great as them. Besides, he won't know anyone, and what if the other children are mean? Shoto doesn't want mean friends, or friends with fire quirks, or friends that shout a lot. Actually, we'll be seeing Izuku quite a lot. Mama perks up and smiles. I just spoke with Midoriya and... Would you like to be Izuku's cousin? Cousin? Shoto frowns as he tries to figure out how they can be cousins. He kind of understands siblings, cause if Mama married Mr. Midoriya, then Izuku and he would be brothers, but he isn't so sure about cousins. Does Izuku have an uncle Mama will marry? Yes, cousin. Mama laughs, and it's still the prettiest sound in the world. See, Izuku's Mama? She got very sick and, well, she died. Shoto frowns because he wondered at times where Izuku's Mama was, and at first thought maybe she was nasty, like father, and that was why Izuku only had his papa. But then they went round to Izuku's house, and there were lots of photos of a lady that had green hair, even in Izuku's room. And Shoto decided maybe Izuku's mama wasn't nasty, because if she was, Izuku wouldn't want her in his room. But if she got sick and died, that's really not fair. Izuku's super nice, and so his mama probably was super nice too, and Shoto doesn't know why bad things happen to nice people and not villains. But she was a very nice person, Mama continues. And she would have loved us all very much. So, from now on she's going to be our Auntie Inko. And will tell people she was my sister. Mama wipes at her eyes, and Shoto considers this new information. Then he smiles. If he's Izuku's cousin, then they're family. And family stays together, so they can still meet up even though they're at different schools. And Mr. Midoriya will be family too, and he's super strong and super scary, so they'll be safe. And Auntie Inko must be an angel, since she was so nice, and that means she looks after Izuku, to make sure he's safe. But sometimes maybe she still goes and helps other people, and she probably told Mr. Midoriya to punch father. And then Shoto thinks of a great way for him to be brave on his first day of school. Mama, could you dye my hair green? You're not Deku. No, I'm Shoto. Shoto frowns as he looks away from his All Might pencil case to a very angry-looking blonde. He isn't sure he wants to be friends with the boy, but he's polite, and you never know. I don't care. The boy glares at him, his hands letting off some strange pops, and then he stomps off to the entrance to the classroom. Shoto doesn't follow. He doesn't know who Deku is, but he must not be very smart. Shoto wouldn't want to be friends with someone as angry and mean as the blonde. Maybe Deku couldn't find anyone nice to be his friend though, and was really lonely. Shoto can kind of understand, he was kind of lonely before Izuku. Shoto perks up, because maybe he could be Deku's friend? Then Deku wouldn't have to be friends with someone who looks kind of scary, and then Shoto could introduce him to Izuku and Tenya, and then Deku would know just what nice friends should be like. Deku does not arrive though, and when the teacher tells them to take their seats, the blonde stomps to his desk, a really scary frown on his face. Shoto ignores him, busy repeating what he's going to tell as children start introducing themselves. He's practiced with Tuya all week, and so the lie comes easily when it's his turn, and he says with a smile, "My name is Shoto Yukiyama, and my quirk is Frost. When I grow up, I want to be a hero." The blonde snorts, and Shoto resists the urge to stick his tongue out at him. And then the blonde stands up and declares, "My name is Bakugo Katsuki, and I'm gonna be the #1 hero." It's a Thursday when Hisashi's world comes crashing down. He's sitting through yet another board meeting, barely resisting the temptation to doodle on the financial reports, when his secretary pokes her head into the room. "Mr. Midoriya, sir, you're wanted in your office." Hisashi would normally dismiss her, but her makeup is smudged and her voice quivers. And it is so out of character that before he even stands up, he has a terrible feeling. So he leaves the meeting early, trying and failing to ignore the woman's sniffles. He almost panics when he sees the two detectives. They're plain clothes, of course, but there's something instantly recognizable about all police in Hisashi's experience. They're both wearing serious expressions, but since they're not accompanied by heroes, Hisashi is fairly certain they are not planning to arrest him. But they're here, and he can't seem to get the image of his sobbing secretary out of his mind, so he dismisses any pleasantries. He's a father first. He can be nice once he is sure everything is all right. "What happened?" he asks and then adds, "Is Izuku all right?" The younger of the two, an unassuming man with no obvious quirk, hesitates, obviously uncomfortable, and Hisashi feels like someone punched him in the stomach. No immediate answer is almost worse than a no, because his mind is working overtime, coming up with scenario after scenario, each worse than the last. The older of the officers, a taller officer with the head of a dog, clears his throat. "Perhaps you should sit down, Midoriya." "Where is Izuku?" Hisashi demands. He's seconds away from activating half a dozen quirks. He doesn't care if All Might is ready to arrest him. He doesn't care if he is thrown in Tartarus, doesn't care if he is killed, because he needs to know Izuku is all right. But then the senior detective speaks, and Hisashi wishes he could take it back, because not knowing was not so bad. At least he could pretend perhaps he was overreacting. "I'm afraid Izuku Midoriya has been kidnapped." Izuku isn't entirely sure what happened. He likes school, he's in the same class as Tenya, so they always pair up during recess. They were talking about the upcoming UA Sports Festival, and Tenya was excited because his grandfather offered to take him to the festival. Then Izuku choked on something, and Tenya screamed for the teacher and tried to grab him, and then Izuku fell onto a hard floor, coughing. It's dark, and Izuku doesn't even get to look around before someone pulls a loose sack over his head. Someone else grabs his hands and twists them behind his back, and then there's a soft click and he can feel metal digging into his wrists. "Step on it," someone yells, and Izuku is thrown to the floor as the van, because it has to be van, nasty people who take children always drive vans, speeds off. Izuku wants to be brave, because he's going to be a hero one day. But he's not a hero yet, he's a scared child who really wants his papa, and as he's hauled upright, he can't help his tears. Hisashi has never hated the police before. When he was all for one, they were little more than an inconvenience, a source of amusement as they bumbled around, desperately playing catch-up. But now they are actively preventing him from searching for Izuku, when his son is out there somewhere, terrified and alone. And although for obvious reasons he hasn't been entirely truthful with the police, he can't for the life of him think who could be responsible. Which is just all the more reason for him to be out there, because torture is an incredibly effective method of investigation. Someone knocks on the office door, and if it's Tsukachi with another cup of tea, Hisashi will throw it at the detective. He looks up to tell the man as much and pauses. "Hi." Takeshi Ida greets him with an awkward smile. Hisashi is not terribly close with the head of Ida 10, but he normally looks a lot more put together. The disheveled hair and navy sweatpants are unusual enough, although in other circumstances he might have laughed about the man's ingenium shirt. "How are you holding up?" the other man asks as he takes a seat opposite. Hisashi manages a broken laugh. "Oh, just fine." Ida winces. "Is there anyone you want to call? Any family or—" "No one," Hisashi sighs. "Just me and Izuku." They sit in silence for a few seconds, before Ida speaks again. "We'll find him." Katsumi has the whole of Ida 10 on high alert, and Tensei's doing overtime. The minute we get a possible sighting, he'll be there. Hisashi will be there too. And may God have mercy for those responsible, because he will not. By the time the van stops, Izuku has cried himself calm. It helps when he tries to think about what Ingenium or All Might would do. Well, maybe not All Might, he could just punch a hole in the van. So he decides to view the situation as training for when he's a hero. So he tries to stay calm, but also alert, so when he's found, he can tell the police all about the villains. He isn't entirely sure what else he should do as someone drags him into a building. He can't help but worry how long it will be until someone finds him, because he doesn't know where he is. He wishes he had a quirk that could help him get away, or maybe tell someone where he is. Because he doesn't want to wait for a hero, he just really wants to go home to Papa. Izuku pauses. His kidnapper growls and gives him a hard yank. Izuku hurries to keep up, mind racing. When they took him from school, he's pretty sure one of them used some sort of warp quirk. And if someone has a warp quirk, maybe Izuku can take it? After all, he's allowed to use his quirk in self-defense, and he really just wants to go home. But he has only ever taken quirks from his papa for practice, and he has never attempted it without touching the person. He doesn't know if he can do it. No, he has to calm down. All Might is always calm, and so Izuku can be too. He isn't sure how he can take a quirk without physical contact, but he has to try. So he reaches out with his senses, the same as when he's feeling about for a quirk with Papa, or at least he tries to, fumbling desperately until he feels something brush against his mind. He latches onto it with all his might, desperate, because he doesn't know if he'd be able to find it again, and tugs and pulls, and wrenches it away. There's a strangled cry from the person next to him and the bruising grip on him loosens. Izuku is so surprised he stumbles and falls with enough force that it hurts. He can't do anything to get up, bound as he is, and he panics. He can feel the new quirk settled comfortably under his skin, but he doesn't know how it works, he doesn't know how to activate it, he doesn't even know where he is. Izuku really just wishes his papa were here. Hisashi wishes he could just rip Tsuragami's head off and go on a rampage. He knows he's over-emotional, but he can't help it. It's been hours, and they're no closer to locating Izuku, and the detectives won't even tell him anything. And now there's an itch in his throat. Midoriya? Ida frowns, concerned, as Hisashi starts to cough. Are you alright? Hisashi can't answer. Instead he doubles over as he chokes on something. There's a crash as Ida drops his coffee mug and calls for help, but Hisashi knows they can't do anything as he coughs up a thick black liquid. And then the police station vanishes and he collapses, coughing and spluttering, onto a concrete floor. He takes a deep breath and smiles. He doesn't know where he is, but this can't be a coincidence. And with no police around, oh, he's going to enjoy this. He can hear a low miming as he draws himself up, but it's no one important, just some low-level ruffian sprawled on the concrete floor. He barely spares the beardy a glance, because next to him is a small body, wearing those garish red shoes Hisashi would know anywhere. It feels surreal as Hisashi carefully removes the bag over Izuku's head. His face is pale, his breathing fast, but it's alright because he's alive. Because Izuku is right here, and Hisashi can protect him. Hisashi presses a quick kiss to his son's forehead, wincing at the fever he seems to be running. Then he slips off his suit jacket and uses it to cushion Izuku's head. Don't worry, Izuku, all for one whispers as he rolls up his sleeves. I am here. Hisashi hates hospitals. He sighs as he leans forward in his chair. Izuku should not be lying unconscious in a hospital bed. Around this time, he should be begging for just 5 minutes on the computer, or perhaps telling Hisashi about a new quirk he saw on the news. A knock on the door brings Hisashi out of his musings, and he looks up as Kurogyari enters. Sir, the warper greets him with a nod. He looks over at Izuku, and although he might be hard to read, Hisashi can see the worry. He kind of wonders just how many baked goods they'll have to go through in the coming weeks. How is he? No serious injuries, he just won't wake up, Hisashi shrugs. They think his body went into some sort of quirk-related shock. Kurogyari nods in understanding. Hisashi supposes that the two of them probably understand better than most just how painful it can be to overreach with your quirk, although, it's not your fault, sir, Kurogyari speaks up, breaking Hisashi out of his spiraling thoughts. I may not know the details, but I am sure there was nothing you could have done to prevent this. You don't know that, Hisashi sighs. I should have. Should-haves won't make a difference now, Kurogyari shrugs. Izuku will need you to be strong to recover from this. If you want to blame yourself, do it after he's safely tucked up in his own bed. Hisashi can't help but laugh. You really should know your place, Kurogyari. Oh, I do, sir. The warper doesn't even look at him as he picks up the empty chair at the foot of Izuku's bed. Hisashi understands what he is planning and wordlessly stands up. It's by your shoulder, making sure you know what Inko would say. Once there is sufficient space, Kurogyari opens a warp gate. The first thing through is Gigantomachia's head. Is little lord all right? Hisashi manages a weak smile. He will be. I need you to stay and protect the house, in case it's attacked. Understand, Gigantomachia? Yes, lord, the giant mumbles, obviously unhappy, and it is strangely touching to see such devotion. If anything happens, I'll protect him, Hisashi assures the man. Gigantomachia perks up at that and vanishes back through the warp gate. Then his arm emerges, bearing a large holdall. Kurogyari accepts it and promptly begins unpacking. I thought Izuku might appreciate waking up to familiar surroundings, he explains to Hisashi, and suddenly Hisashi needs to sit back down. Because he sometimes forgets that no matter how it might seem, Izuku has so many people that love him. By the time visiting hours are over, the hospital room is a veritable shrine to All Might. Hisashi swallows down any distaste he might feel, brushes the hair out of Izuku's face, and settles down for a long wait. When he first wakes up, Izuku thinks he must be at home in his bed. The whole kidnapping must have been a nightmare, he decides as he pulls his All Might plush close. He's still a bit scared, though, so he'll ask Papa if he can sleep in his bed. Izuku sits up and realizes he isn't in his bedroom. In fact, he doesn't know where he is, and he isn't even wearing his own clothes. All that stops him from panicking is that Papa is sat in a chair next to his bed, snoring softly. But even so, It must mean that he hadn't been dreaming. Someone took him? Izuku promptly bursts into tears. Papa jolts awake, jumping to his feet and banging his knee on the bed frame. He looks around, and as soon as he sees Izuku reaching for him, Papa sits down on the bed. Izuku needs no further invitation and latches on with all his might. Izuku isn't sure how long he cries, but Papa doesn't protest. He just holds Izuku close and whispers how much he loves him. The tears have finally dried by the time a doctor stops by and makes sure Izuku is feeling better. Once she's left, Papa makes sure Izuku is comfortably propped up against the pillows and sits down as close as he can, tightly grasping Izuku's hand. Izuku is kind of glad, because no one would be silly enough to try hurting him when Papa's right there. They sit in silence for a few minutes, until one of the nurses brings them both breakfast. Izuku manages a smile at the sight of the stack of pancakes, and Hisashi grasps at his coffee like a dying man. But once they've finished eating, Izuku realizes that he's done something really, really bad. He wishes he could go back in time, to before he even left his house that morning. Is it still the same day? Izuku is sure it can't be the same day. It feels like at least a month has passed since he left for school. Papa? He speaks once the trays have been cleared away. Yes, Izuku? Papa smiles, and it's so warm, so full of love, that it just makes Izuku feel worse. Because he can feel, tucked away in his body, that quirk he took earlier. And now that he's no longer in danger, it feels uncomfortable, a constant reminder that he took it from someone else. There's someone out there that doesn't have a quirk anymore because of him, and suddenly the fact it was a villain sounds more like an excuse. He wonders if the police will let him just give it back, or if he'll have to go to jail. Izuku glances around, just in case the police are waiting to arrest him. He kind of doesn't want to admit it, but Papa might know what to do. So he leans close to Papa and whispers, "I did something bad." The smile slips from Papa's face, but he pulls Izuku closer, so close Izuku can almost feel his heartbeat. "Well, whatever you did, you can tell me, Izuku. I promise I won't be mad." "Really?" Izuku sniffles. "Really?" Papa confirms. Izuku takes a deep breath and tightens his grip of Papa's shirt, trying to leech every last bit of comfort he can. "I took someone's quirk." For just a second, Papa does not answer, and Izuku almost panics. But Papa holds him close and doesn't shove him away, and doesn't call the police. Instead, he asks, "Was this someone the person who took you?" Izuku nods, and Papa presses a kiss to his head. "Listen to me, Izuku, you did nothing wrong. When grown-ups do bad things and try to hurt you, it's all right to use your quirk." He pauses for a minute and then asks, "Did you use the quirk you took?" "I don't know. Because something very strange happened while we were looking for you. Suddenly, I was right next to you." Papa gently pushes Izuku back, so he can see the smile on his face. "And if you did it, I'm really proud of you. You were scared, but you still found a way to get help." "Really?" Izuku asks, feeling better, because if Papa says he did the right thing. "Really?" Papa confirms. "No one is mad at you. The police will want to talk to you, but they'll just want to ask you a few questions. And if you tell them what you just said, they'll agree you did the right thing." Izuku manages a smile and giggles when Papa ruffles his hair. "Now, young man, there are a lot of people that will want to know you're all right." "Tenya, Midoriya just texted an update." "Shoto, grab your coat." Kurogyari is just pulling a batch of muffins from the oven when he hears his phone ping. Inko was right. Baking is surprisingly therapeutic. He almost drops the baking tray in his haste to get to the phone. Picking it up is almost impossible with the oven mitts, he learns quickly, but finally he opens his messages and laughs, giddy with relief. "Makia," he calls out. Izuku's woken up. He's been with the Midoriyas long enough that he does not bat an eyelid at the tumult as the giant all but tumbles down the stairs. "Is little Lord all right?" Gigantomachia demands as he explodes into the kitchen. Gigantomachia may be many things, but quiet and subtle are not amongst them. "See for yourself." Kurogyari smiles as he passes the bodyguard his phone. Just in case, he warps some kitchen rollover because Gigantomachia is, when it comes to Izuku, a big softy. He idly wonders if Midoriya will mind if he sets it as his contact photo. It's rather hard to remember the man is a retired supervillain when he's posing with a doting smile on his face, a grinning Izuku next to him. It appears the warehouse burnt to the ground, Tsukachi sighs. And we've been unable to locate any of the villains involved. Are you sure you didn't see anything, Mr. Midoriya? Hisashi barely resists the urge to whistle innocently. I'm afraid when I saw Izuku was unconscious, I panicked. I picked him up and ran to get help, and had just exited the warehouse when it burst into flames. In hindsight, it was rather odd I didn't encounter anyone. Right? Tsukachi slowly nods. Well, once the doctor decides he's up to it, we'll need to conduct an interview with Izuku. Of course, Hisashi agrees and makes a mental note to coach Izuku on what to say. If you'll excuse me. We hope Izuku feels better soon, Tsuragami smiles, as Hisashi stands to leave the room. When he lets himself back into the hospital room, with a cup of that sludge the administrators seem to believe is coffee, Izuku is sitting propped up in bed, reading through Quirk Analysis, Volume 1, chewing on the end of a pen. Hey there, Hisashi smiles as he settles back into his chair. How are you feeling? Tired, Izuku sighs as he closes his notebook. Bored. Then he perks up, and Hisashi frowns, because he knows perfectly well what is going through his head. No quirk experiments before you've been released, young man. But, Papa, Izuku whines. I want to see how it works. However it works, it landed you in hospital, Hisashi points out. Izuku pouts, but his father remains unmoved. He's face-down heroes, damn it. A 6-year-old is nothing in comparison. If you insist, I can always take it off you and see how it works myself. Izuku opens his mouth to protest, but spots the warning in Hisashi's eyes. With a groan, he collapses back onto the pillows. Besides, Kurogiri promised he'd come visit soon. With biscuits. Izuku perks up. Hisashi laughs at the hopeful gleam in his son's eyes. I'm sure he's not coming empty-handed. Izuku nods, bright eyes, and with another laugh, Hisashi picks up his son's notebook. Muffins. Izuku cheers as soon as Kurogiri steps into the room. It is good to see you too, the Warper replies, calmly setting the plastic box down on the bedside table. Immediately, Izuku snatches a muffin and bites into it. How is Gigantomachia? Hisashi asks with a sigh. He hopes nothing else goes wrong. He does not know how he'd explain half of Tokyo being destroyed because someone decided to try a spot of burglary. Oh, fine. Kurogiri nods, his eyes crinkling in that odd way that means he is smiling. I mentioned you said the house could do with a spring clean. Hisashi laughs. Remind me to buy you those pans you've had your eye on. Of course, sir, Kurogiri nods. He would like to see Izuku as soon as possible. Can he, Papa? Izuku asks eagerly. Please. Well, the doctor does think you're up to receiving visitors, Hisashi admits. Then he hastily adds, but you do not leave that bed. And the minute you're tired, tell me. Yes, Papa. Izuku salutes with his half-eaten muffin, and, not for the first time, Hisashi wishes he brought a camera. Very well then. Kurogiri makes sure the door is closed, and then, with a mischievous twinkle in his eye and a dramatic flourish, announces, one warp gate to the living room, coming up. Surprisingly, the first thing through is not Gigantomachia. In fact, it is two small, familiar figures, both with green hair. Izuku! Shoto exclaims as he clambers onto the bed. Are you all right? Tenya asks. He's only standing by the foot of the bed, but Hisashi can see the tension bleeding from his shoulders. Poor kid, Izuku vanished right in front of him. Hisashi hands him a muffin in a silent demonstration of solidarity. Little Lord! Gigantomachia wails as he squeezes through the gate. No hugs! Hisashi hurriedly commands him, and the giant nods morosely and takes up a spot at the foot of the bed, like an oversized guard dog. Oh, thank goodness, Ryukiyama sniffs as she steps through the gate. She hurries over to kiss Izuku on the forehead and give him a hug, and then joins Gigantomachia, wordlessly offering up the box of tissues she brought to the giant. Hisashi feels strangely touched when he realizes she also has dyed her hair green, and makes a mental note to mention it looks better than the usual black. It would also help their story that she is related to Inko. Although the room is already crowded, Kurogyari does not immediately close the warp gate. Hisashi is about to ask about it, when one last, final person steps through. "I brought coffee," Katsumi Ida announces, brandishing a large thermos. Apparently being wonderful is genetic, Hisashi reflects as he gratefully accepts a cup. And then this new hero showed up. His name is... It's Edge Shot, and he can make himself really thin. "Oh yeah." Shoto nods. "He's the one that looks like a ninja, right? I saw him on the news last week." Izuku opens his mouth to answer, but is interrupted by a knock at the door. "Afternoon, Izuku," the nurse smiles as she opens the door, and then pauses when she sees all the people inside. "There's a policeman that would like to ask you a few questions." "We should probably get going," Auntie Ray sighs as she stands up. She quickly hurries over to kiss Izuku and give him another cuddle, and Izuku makes sure to enjoy it. Auntie Ray gives the second best cuddles. "Tenya, you'll be sleeping over at our place tonight, remember?" "Yes." Tenya nods, although he doesn't look particularly happy. It just makes Izuku feel better, because both his friends were quite clear that a sleepover just isn't the same without him. It's also nice, because apparently everyone at Ida 10 is working really hard to find the villains that took him, although Izuku feels a bit sorry for them. Auntie Katsumi can be really scary. "If he's not been released, you can come round tomorrow morning," Papa assures them. "Kurogyari can pick you up after breakfast." "I need to go too," Kurogyari winces as he checks his phone. Apparently the Pussycats found out about the kidnapping and caught the first train from Hokkaido. "I texted them that everything is all right, but, well, I'd still like to be there when they get in." "Of course," Papa laughs. "If they want, they can probably come visit sometime tomorrow." Yes. Izuku beams. It makes him feel all warm inside to know so many people were worried about him. "Oh, Shoto, you haven't met them, but they're awesome rescue heroes and..." "You can tell him all about them tomorrow," Papa interrupts him with a smile. "You need to talk to the policeman, remember?" It's kind of sad, saying goodbye to Shoto and Tenya, even though they'll see each other tomorrow. The policeman makes a rather weird face when Kurogyari opens a warp gate and they all vanish through it, and Makia settles down at the foot of the bed and curls up like a big dog. The policeman is still making a strange face as he sits down. Izuku feels a little unsure, but he pulls his All Might plush close and decides he can just pretend he's a hero giving his report to the police. And he can see Papa just over the policeman's shoulder, so he doesn't have to be scared. "All right, Izuku," the policeman smiles as he pulls out a notebook and a recorder. "My name is Nao Mesa Tsukachi, and I need to ask you a few questions. Is that all right? Do I need a lawyer?" Izuku asks, as he realizes maybe the policeman won't be very happy he took someone's quirk. The policeman makes another strange face, and Papa snickers behind his back. Izuku isn't sure what's so funny, but he smiles. "No, you don't need a lawyer," Tsukachi shakes his head. "You're not in any trouble. I just need to ask you a few questions about the people that took you." "Oh, okay." Izuku nods. "Do you know how many people there were?" "At least." Izuku frowns down at his fingers as he tries to figure it out, counting in his mind. "3. That many?" The policeman looks impressed. "You must have been really scared." "A bit," Izuku admits quietly, but then adds, "But when I grow up, I'm gonna be a hero. So it was good practice." "A future hero?" Tsukachi chuckles. "Well, then I look forward to working together." Izuku beams. "Do you know what the people that took you looked like?" "No," Izuku shakes his head. "They put something on my head." Then something occurs to him, and he frowns. "Why don't you ask the villain you caught?" "We didn't catch anyone," the policeman frowns. "When we arrived, there was no one there." "Really?" Izuku pulls his plush closer. "The villains are still out there, and at least one of them has to be really, really mad at him." "Not even the one I hurt?" "You hurt one of them?" "With my quirk," Izuku admits quietly. He sniffs and wipes at his eyes. "I know it's naughty, but I was scared and wanted to go home. And Papa just said it was all right." "You're not in any trouble," Tsukachi assures him with a smile. I'm actually impressed. It sounds like you'll be a really good hero. You must have been very smart to think to use your quirk. That's attraction, Papa informs him. Like his mother, he can attract small objects. The policeman frowns and pauses, but just as Izuku's starting to worry, he shakes his head and stands up. Well, that's all for now, he smiles, but there's something off about it. I'll call if we need anything else. And, Izuku, you really were very brave. I have no doubt you'll be an incredible hero one day. Izuku smiles at that, and Papa sees the policeman to the door. Then once he's gone, he comes back and Izuku moves over to make space for Papa on the bed. Papa, tell me a story. There's something off about that boy. And his quirk.